Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on September the 6th, 2016. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, a storm cloud on a sunny day.
Caffeine rage, and you make that sound like a bad thing.
Well, I guess it depends on how you feel about storm clouds.
Or sunny days.
I definitely hate the sunny days. As our new custom, timestamps will, of course, be in the show notes following their respective topics, and the topics list for this week is the games we've played, the No Man's Sky refund debacle, can we fix the Steam refund system, Arc launches a paid expansion while still being in early access, we'll have our weekly community corner, and our weekly Steam deals discussion. Hello, Rage.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
A little tired. I had to stay up for the landlord today.
Yep.
Yeah, she doesn't respect creatures of the night.
Well, I mean, you are the exception, which is sad because I would be nocturnal if I could, but most people are daywalkers.
Yeah, but then they have to go outside when there's that big burny thing in the sky.
I know, it sucks. It makes my skin all red and peel.
Well, I don't so much as peel as combust. But then again, I am of pale heritage.
You know, I know someone who has porphyria, which is known as the vampire's disease.
Yeah.
She can't... Basically, she's allergic to the sun. She can only be outside in direct sunlight for a few hours a day. Otherwise, she starts to experience all kinds of really bad symptoms. Exhaustion and pain and rashes that... Not sunburn, actual rashes and things like that. It's crazy. I told her I envied her. That'd give me an excuse not to go outside.
I think I found a new friend.
She was my Spanish teacher in high school.
A señorita.
Yes, she is a señorita.
That's about that's all about all of the Spanish I know, by the way.
Yeah, unfortunately for you, she's married. But I think you would have been a good match. Her husband reminds me a lot of you.
Uh-oh.
He's very cranky and fat and has got a nice voice. So, plays lots of video games. Super nerd.
I'm not sure how I feel about most of that, by the way.
Well, you would have been a perfect fit for the señorita.
Only if I was older, right?
She's not that much old. Actually, how old is she? She's like 3 or 4 years older than me, so she's closer to your age.
Well, you said teacher, so I was assuming, a bit older.
No, I was in the very first class that she taught out of school. So she's about 30. So yeah, she's almost as old as you are.
Gee, thanks.
I have a fun story from this week. Do you have any stories before I launch into my story?
Just me being cranky because I was forced to stay up to meet the landlord. To talk to her for 5 minutes, and then go to sleep for about 4 hours before waking up to set up for the podcast.
Right.
Which is why I'm a little bit late today.
Yeah, but it's all right. We still got started around 11 o'clock. That's not too bad. So actually, I have two stories now that I think about it. Do you want the short story that's funny, or the long story that made me frustrated?
Let's start with the frustration and then end with the humor.
Okay, so...
Yeah, which I'm sure you're used to, by the way.
Yeah. So, as everyone knows, we post this on YouTube as well, each of our respective YouTube channels. And last week's episode, the To the Moon episode, was my most viewed episode yet. What you think? How is that frustrating? Well, there was a guy that came to watch it on YouTube. I don't know if he listens to the podcast regularly, or if the To the Moon and the title drew him to the episode, or what. But he decided that he wanted to argue with me.
Oh, no. I see where this is going.
He decided that he wanted to argue with me about Asperger's syndrome.
Oh, I was expecting a moon landing denier.
No. That would have been less frustrating to me and just more funny.
No, sheesh, I got no views on my... I got 3 views on my YouTube copy of Field Trip to the Moon.
I had 17 when I last checked. Couple of days ago.
You hit the jackpot then.
Yeah. So anyways, his first comment was like a few things. Like he was questioning one of, I don't even remember exactly. I'm not going to go look at it because it'll make me mad. And I don't want to be mad right now.
Do it.
He was questioning one of the things that we interpreted from the story, and he was asking me how it's unethical, how that research would be deemed unethical.
Really?
And yeah. His view on that one I kind of understand. It's like, well, I mean, they could just say that people who wanted to volunteer could volunteer. And I mean, that might be fine.
Yeah, but here's the thing is that you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. And I mean, that might be fine. Like, okay, like they're volunteering to do it, but it's still against the ethics code for various research organizations in the United States. Like, it would still be illegal to perform that research in the United States. And that's what I was getting
at. Yeah, maybe
at.
he's overseas.
Perhaps. And overseas it might be different. I'm not familiar with overseas research ethics codes because there's different ethics codes around the world. But I am familiar with the one for the United States. But anyway, so, that one was pretty easy for me to explain to him. And then he's like, how is Asperger's a psychological disorder? It's a neurological condition. And I was like, okay, maybe he just doesn't understand, like, how things get classified. And so I was like, okay, it's in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual for mental health disorder that we use as kind of like our Bible. Like, it's just a big book of conditions that we can go to and look for stuff, and especially if we're confused for things that are a little more obscure. And so I was like, well, it's in the DSM, it's under this section, and it's classified because of this reason. He's like, well, yeah, but it's not a mental health disorder. It's something wrong with the brain. And I was like, well, yes, that is true, but since there's no actual medical treatment for Asperger's, the place where it fits the best is a mental health condition. He's like, well, but it's not a mental health condition. I was like, okay, asshole. Look, I didn't actually say that. That's what I thought. But I was like, look, I understand that you have your point of view, but unless you're about to tell me that you're a medical doctor or also a psychologist
or a researcher,
or researcher. I didn't say that, but or researcher. I'm about to play the I know more than you about this card. And I said, before I do that, I want to make sure that you're not just arguing with me to try to prove a point or be pedantic. And he was like, I'm not arguing with you. I just think that you need to question why it's in there and why it's listed that way, because it will help you treat your clients the best. And I was like,
boy.
Oh my gosh. So my response to him was something along the lines of, look, dude, I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a research psychologist. My specialization is in marriage and family therapy. And I do see clients from time to time who have autism spectrum disorders. But regardless, me questioning whether or not it's more of a medical condition or a mental health condition is not going to do anything to improve the treatment that I could give to those people. And then I played look, I went to school for years for this. I have this many hours of experience actually doing this. I know more than you. Stop. And then he responded one more time, and he was like, why do you have to be that way trying to prove a point? I just don't see the point arguing with me when it's just a neurological condition. And I didn't respond at that point. I just was like, I'm just not going to respond. He's either a troll or is just one of those people that thinks that he's smarter than everyone else.
Or maybe he has Asperger's and, thinks he knows exactly what it is.
Maybe so. Technically, he is correct. And yes, technically is the best form of correct. Technically, he's correct. Also, technically, all mental health disorders are something that's neurological, something wrong with your brain. But there are actually very few mental health conditions that are treatable with medication. The ones that everyone thinks of the most of them can be treated with medication. Depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, ADHD, there's medication, for that. Lots of those can be treated with medication. But I've got like a 1,200-page book that's filled cover to cover with all kinds of disorders from common to rare. And probably 90% of the conditions in that book can't be treated with medication. So until we create like a panacea that can just fix the brain, then they're going to be mental health disorders.
A little percussive maintenance, perhaps?
I'd like to give that guy some percussive maintenance. And if he's listening, either I expect him to go away at this point or to come back on the next YouTube video and fight me some more. Regardless.
Or just support us on our Patreon, patreon.com/VGO podcast.
There you go.
We could always put a tier in fight the shrink.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to give us $1,000, I'll bring you on the show and debate with you live.
And meanwhile, I'll just sit here and chuckle and probably eat some popcorn. Maybe go get some pretzels. Yeah, it's something extra crunchy.
And belch a lot. Get a lot of soda so you belch a lot.
Yeah, but then Howard Stern would sue us for trademark infringement.
So yeah, that was my frustrating story from this week.
Yeah, and just for interest's sake, I looked up what my most viewed copies of the podcast were. Are you interested in hearing?
Sure.
Actually, my most viewed on YouTube is episode 0.
Nice.
At 41, then episode number 18, which I titled Monkey's Paw, is right behind it at 40. And then it kind of sharply drops off. Number 5 at 35, number 13 at 34, 12 at 28, and 1 at 26.
Nice. Yeah, you've definitely got a lot more views on your YouTube podcast.
But then again, well, here's the thing: is that I've also thrown a lot more shit against the wall, so a lot more is stuck, just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm over 12,000, approaching 13,000 views total on my YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's just, I have the sheer numbers out there that brings up my videos. Granted, my latest stuff hasn't really performed on the podcast, but then again, YouTube is just weird in general.
Yeah. Okay, so now for the funny
I disagreed. I found that was a funny story.
Funny for you. Maybe funny for the listeners. It pissed me off.
All the more reason to find it funny.
Yeah. Also, just a quick caveat. I don't mind when people question me or want to debate me on something. Yes. Or want to debate me on something. Just don't be a dick. Just don't
shit. There goes all my questioning.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Wait. I'm not a dick. I'm an ass.
Yeah, well. Probably shouldn't be one of those either. Okay, so now for my funny story. So tonight, I got home. Katie went to town to go get her hair done. And she wound up being out late. So I got home. I beat her home. I finished making dinner.
Are you sure you should be admitting to doing that?
What?
Beating her home?
Oh. Yeah, I beat her
Poor
all the
Katie.
way home. Beat her all the way home. No, this is going to be poor me. So I'm waiting on her to come home. Kid's in bed, waiting. She comes home. I'm talking to her. She goes back to her car to get some stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to wait on you anymore to eat dinner. I'm really hungry. And she's like, oh, I didn't know you waited. I stopped and got dinner. I was like, what? She stopped at Sonic and got food. So I was picking on her. I was giving her a hard time about it. And I don't know how we got to talking about this, but I was like, oh, she called me a butt face. And I said, okay, well, how about I just shave off my beard because my chin looks kind of like a butt. And then I was like, I'll just leave the little part, or I'll just leave my mustache. And she goes, yeah, that makes sense because you're basically Hitler.
So do you have the toothbrush mustache now?
No.
Well, November is coming up, so I think in honor of that, you should do just the Hitler mustache.
I'll make you a deal. If we can get $1,000 on Patreon just for that 1 month, and it actually has to pay out. You people can't send in, like, say, pledge and then withdraw your pledge before payout time. It has to pay out. I will shave everything except that part of my mustache and take pictures and post them all over for you.
If I will doubt that it happens because that is a lot of money and we don't exactly have a huge audience. If they do that, you can't just do the mustache. You have to be full Nazi regalia.
I don't have any Nazi regalia.
You'll have $1,000 to get a costume.
Well, I was hoping we could spend the money, on podcast related things.
I think that would be worth it, to rent a costume. Oh.
I might be able to find one from the art or the theater department at the college if it'll fit me. I don't know. That's going to be the hard part. I'm fat.
Fat Hitler. We'll start a new internet trend.
Fat Hitler. I'd do it. I would do it. If we get $1,000, I'll do it. So there you go, guys. There's your challenge.
I'll be surprised if that happens.
Me too. But hey, people, I'll do stuff for money. Okay. Well, that's enough about this. Let's talk about games or game. Your game specifically.
Yeah. It's not that I've only played one game. It's just I've been debugging Rimworld, trying to figure out what was going on with a particular mod, and I feel like a fucking dumbass for what happened with it. Essentially, I'll talk about Rimworld really briefly, and maybe I'll add it to the show notes. Is that I'm using a mod called Combat Realism, and one of the things that it does, on top of making guns a hell of a lot more deadly, is that it removes the stock turret from the base level game. Meaning that you can't just build a wall of turrets in a kill box and hide behind them. You have to actively defend your colony.
Right.
Well, what's supposed to happen is that you're able to research to get those turrets back. And I imagine that they're a lot more deadly now because guns in general are just a lot more deadly. And just because of how the bullets work, I'm assuming that they're also considered armored, which meaning that you have to have armor-piercing rounds to deal massive damage to turrets. Once again, I'm not 100% sure there, but... So I found a research called Gun Turret. And I was in my testing build where I have research turned all the way up with a huge modifier. I research it, nothing happens. There's no turrets. And I thought, well, fuck, is it bugged? And I go looking around and I find people talking about the turrets being removed because they were having issues with the ammo, how they were handling ammo. And I thought, well, maybe they're just not back in yet because they were talking about them adding them back in once they figure out the problem. So I dismiss it and just think, okay, well, I'll just do a colonist defense, and once this colony is done, and I update my mod list, which I kind of accidentally updated mid-game anyway, which is very dangerous to the save file, by the way. I would just add the defensive pack to have essentially gun emplacements. Well, I just started messing around with it again a couple nights ago. And I was wanting to see what the deep research was because on my test game, I never got that far. And I found a research called Auto Guns. And I thought, fuck, don't tell me. And yeah, that's the gun turret.
Okay.
But here's the thing, is that, yes, I was a dumbass. I didn't go deep enough in the tech tree. But then again, it is also very, very deep in the tech tree. It's behind, I'm going to say 5 or 6 research projects. And that is dedicated research projects, by the way. At least one that is completely dedicated. Well, no, correction, 2 that's dedicated to it. The one that unlocks it directly, and the one that unlocks the one that unlocks it directly. So even if I was rushing the gun turrets to set up the normal Rimworld defense, I'm currently on episode... I think I'm about to release episode 8, just as this podcast comes out. Well, unless Kyle is being a cheeky little monkey again, which, let's be perfectly honest, he's going to be.
Yeah, he is. He always listens early.
Yeah, cheeky little monkey. There is no physical way for me to get those gun turrets that early. Gun turrets move from being a base level defense to being a late game defense. So it's a case of, for once, me being a dumbass, but it not really affecting me.
Right.
And I've also been toying around with a few other things and trying to figure out my mod loadout for the next time around, because I know that the colony is eventually going to fail, and I may have hit the failure state in the last recording. Because shit's going down. And yes, I am teasing that one because, yeah, I don't want to ruin too much of my upcoming content. And if you want to see what shit's going down, you could always check it out over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube.
Ding.
Yeah, poor Akinesis Gaming. He's been an insufferable little shit this week, and now he's getting picked on by Groove.
Excellent.
Ugh.
So, tell me about this game, OddPlanet.
Yeah, OddPlanet. Well, did you ever? Were you ever around with cassette tapes and VHS tapes?
Yes, I'm not that much of a baby.
Well, all right, give me credit. Okay. Have you ever watched a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a game or of a recording?
Yeah, at best it's pretty shitty.
That's about how I would explain OddPlanet. Take a Limbo, copy it, copy it, copy it, copy it, copy it, until you have a basic idea of Limbo. But that's about it. Granted, the art style is nice, but that's where things kind of start to break down. First of all, no options whatsoever, and a fixed resolution. Unfortunately, that fixed resolution is 1280 by 720.
Okay. Well, that's not as bad. At least it's a widescreen resolution.
Yeah, true, but I play on a 1280 or a 1080p monitor. Right. So it made everything fuzzy. And the controls were awkward. No controller support whatsoever, which is a little odd for a platformer. Oh, well, a puzzle platformer. Granted, it is a very slow-paced platformer, being a mobile port, and a rather bad mobile port at that. So, playing on keyboard shouldn't be that bad. But it used the arrow keys, which is odd. It was locked to 55 FPS for some reason. I'm guessing that's related to just being a mobile port. Yes, I realize 55 versus 60 FPS, not going to really notice a difference. But it's one of those things that, it's an indicator of just a shitty port just in general. It's like seeing tap to continue in the opening screen. You know things are not going to turn out all that well for you.
Yeah, you're not up to a good start there.
Yeah. Let's see. The art style is nice, like I said, and the atmosphere it has that almost an Oddworld-esque. And yes, I know OddPlanet, Oddworld. The Abe's Odyssey series. It has that sort of feel with, being very alien and not really being connected to anything. It's not humanoid aliens, which is a nice departure from what you usually see in sci-fi games. You see, it's sort of the Star Trek syndrome where it's a human with a funny thing on their forehead or a funny thing on their ears. You know what I'm talking about?
Say that again?
The Star Trek syndrome where the aliens are essentially human only with a funny thing on their forehead or funny thing on their ears, or just a slightly different skin tone, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's, you could tell it would just be a human in makeup. Granted, they did explain that in Star Trek lore, but, that's, it's more of, trying to retcon why all the aliens look humanoid. Yeah, but I'm getting off base.
Right.
Which is hardly surprising.
Nah, not really.
Control-wise, which for a puzzle platformer is, king. It can look decent, and if it plays great, it's still great. The controls were floaty. They were not very precise. There was a couple times that I got killed by an obstacle that I've already defeated. This is a Limbo-esque game, so, there's enemies that you have to counteract or, to get around. There's one enemy that was basically a giant plant with that tries to club you. And it has spikes on it, so after a couple times it gets stuck in the ground. I got killed a couple times after it was stuck in the ground and should have been rendered harmless.
Okay.
So, it's just shitty collision detection. And I'll be perfectly honest, the main reason why I played this for the Sunday Sampler this week was quite simply the game that or the couple games that I tried to just didn't pan out. One was just way too early in the early access program, so it felt way too undercooked, and I didn't want to rip apart a game that undercooked. I think my general rule for early access, which and Celebration of Violence was my first early access game that I really looked at, is that anything that calls itself an alpha or an early build, I'm going to wait until it's closer to release. And the game that I tried, I believe it's called Windscape, just was way too early in its build.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of clipping, and it wouldn't have been fair to it. And the other one that I tried, Final Station, just wasn't clicking for me. There was no tutorial, and all the story segments were going on as you had to pay attention to other things. So I wasn't getting any of the story. So I just decided to give it another try another time.
Right.
Which is a shame because Final Station actually looked pretty good. And I may go back and try it again sometime. Yes, I know. I'm really realizing I'm teasing a lot here, aren't I?
Yeah. That's okay, though. You're such a tease.
Well, so are you.
Yeah, I am.
I mean, I saw what you did on Twitter and absolutely ruined my tweets. Oh, such a mess that you made.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I had to heavily editorialize that because it was way too messy otherwise.
Well, right now we're not going to worry about that. If you're
speaking
done,
of your messes, let's see what you played this week.
Yeah, I played. Well, I was going to play The Crew this week. I was sitting a few nights ago. I was sitting in my recliner in front of my big TV, like, I kind of want to play some games that I don't want to get up. Let's see what I've got on my Xbox that I can play. And I didn't want to wait for anything to download, so I was like, what's already installed on it? And The Crew was on there. It was one of the free games, well, quote, free games for Xbox Live Gold members a couple months ago, and I had downloaded it.
The Crew is actually a game that I want to pick up at some point, but I think that it's pretty much dead at this point.
Well, so I opened it up. It had to do a quick download for an update. No big deal. Opened it up, and the very first thing I'm greeted with is sign in to your Ubisoft. What's the Ubisoft thing?
Uplay.
Sign into your Uplay account, and you can get bonuses, and you need to sign in or create an account before you can play. So I hit the jewel button to go back to the home screen, hit start, which pulls up the options menu, and hit uninstall.
The Crew isn't a terrible game. It just isn't a great one either. It's a very mediocre racer, which it's heavily arcadey as well. So
yeah, I just was like, I don't want to deal with your garbage, Ubisoft. I figured that
it's not a terrible game. Like I said, I played the beta of it, and granted, the beta had its very real issues on PC, particularly a 30 FPS frame lock, which is terrible for a racer. But they supposedly released with the 60 FPS frame rate lock, which honestly, why are you in beta and not running the full FPS? I want to know this.
Yeah.
If you're running a beta and limiting the technical issues, it's considered a demo, not a beta, Ubisoft. Granted, you struggled with this before, and it's bit in the ass.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll sit down and play it at some point. I just wasn't in the mood. I was just like, I just want to play something really quickly and easily. And I wound up just like getting up and going and sit down at my PC and playing something else.
So much for not getting up.
Yeah, Ubisoft made me get off the couch. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't actually play it. I just opened it and then closed it and uninstalled it from my Xbox out of spite. So that's when I went and played Space Engineers, which I played for a couple of hours this week. I really like Space Engineers. I really do. The problem with that game is that, and I discovered that this week, is that it is running that massive, complicated game that they keep piling more stuff into on 32-bit architecture.
Oh, so that's the problem.
That's the problem. Because they keep adding more and more stuff to it. The options menu has got like an extra 3 or 4 rows of options now whenever you go to create your game. It's like, do you want to add this or not? Do you want to change this? Do you want your ships to be able to do this? Do you want to add in these new enemies? Do you want to add in these new set of pirates? Do you want to add in the new drones? It's like, no, I don't want any of that stuff because it's going to make my game run like garbage.
Doesn't it do that already?
Yeah. Used to, you could play it in space at a relatively stable 60-ish FPS. Somewhere between 45 and 60. Not perfect, but, good enough. But with all the stuff that they've been pouring into the game, it now runs, even in space, at only between 30 and 45 FPS. Yeah, it's rough. That game just needs an overhaul. Or some.
It needs to pull a KSP and update its engine. I'm not sure what it runs on exactly.
Yeah.
I know Unity is able to do that. To eventually upgrade and not have to. Well, granted, they had to rewrite a hell of a lot of stuff for KSP, but hopefully it's not as bad compared to other engines. Granted, I have no idea.
Yeah. No, it definitely needs a new engine. I'm probably going to keep playing it. There's supposedly some mods that makes it a little bit better, that cleans it up a little bit and shuts down stuff that... Because even when you turn the options off, like, they might not appear in your game, but a lot of that back-end stuff is still running, which is why it gets so bogged down. So even though I'm like turning off all kinds of stuff, the background processes for it are still running. It's just not appearing in the game. So there's some mods that supposedly clean that stuff up and close some of those processes or shut them down if you've got them turned off. So I'm going to do some of that, see if I can get the game running any better. Because I do like it. I like it a lot more than Empyrean, possibly just because it's farther along in its development. I mean, it's a fully released game.
Yeah.
Or no, is it? Or is it still in beta?
Actually, I said yeah, but no, it's considered early access still.
Okay, well, it's got like 2 years of development.
Just wait for them to release the expansion pack.
We will also get to that later. Yeah, it's got 2 or 3 years of development behind it, so it's just got a lot more fully developed feature set.
It's sort of the problem with just survival building games. They're trying to be Dwarf Fortress, when Dwarf Fortress has over a decade of development time behind it.
Yeah.
Or MMOs trying to be the WoW killer when WoW has a decade of development behind it.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I did with Space Engineers. I mean, I messed around in it for a little while, started building a base and all that jazz. But like I said, I need to go through and find some of the mods and stuff that actually make it run better before I go back and play it some more. But I do intend to do that. And then the other game I played a crap ton this week is Sword of the Stars. I took you up on your idea to actually make a tutorial series for it, so I'm going to do most, if not the entire thing, before I actually publish it, just because I don't know how long it's going to actually take me to do this.
Yeah, just upload the entire thing at once.
Yeah, because 4X strategy games are very, very complex things. So I threw together the basic episodes. There's like 4 basic episodes that I've scripted. I need to record them and whatnot, and then get the footage for them. And I might do the basics and then release the advanced tutorials, weekly once I get them done. But regardless, there's still a ton of work that goes into figuring this out and getting all the footage for it. So I've been playing it a lot. I've clocked up like 20 hours in the past 2 weeks with this thing. And I've just been learning a lot of different nuances about the game and how smart the AI is and how much it cheats. Because it does cheat. Whenever you put the AI on hard mode, it cheats. Easy mode, if you put the AI on easy, that's like super training wheels. They're just awful. If you get beaten by an easy AI, you either weren't playing or you are like in a coma.
Or have no idea what the fuck you're doing in that game.
Yeah. Medium makes them competent and definitely a challenge, and they will play to the whatever race that you set the computer as. It will play to that race's strength and try and play to your weakness. Like, for example, whenever I play just to play, I play as the humans. And every race that I played against as the humans on the maps or the star fields that I would generate, they would find all of the choke points. Because, like I think I said this last time, the humans' fast and light travel system is the node gates, which has to go from system to system. You can't just freely go wherever. There is a set path where you will go. And so they'll find all the choke points, and they will try and hold those, because if they can keep those, I can't get past. I mean, I could send a fleet slower than light and take like 40 turns to get to some star system. But I mean, that's stupid. I might as well just launch wave attacks against them to try and knock out and hold one of the choke points. So I mean, that's smart. That's good strategy. And they play to their various racial advantages. The Hiver, for example, always go for engine tech fast, because since they're faster than light travel is instantaneous jump gates, their limiting factor is how quickly can they go from system to system using slower than light travel. So they will barrel down the research path for faster engines. And if you meet them early enough in the game, they'll have like destroyers with antimatter engines, which are like the most powerful ones in the game. But I mean, they need that speed. So they play competently for sure. They're still not necessarily difficult to beat, although that probably is skewed because I've played this game for a decade at this point, off and on. So I do have a lot of experience, but I mean, they're not super difficult. And then you put them on hard mode, and they get, I have no idea what the specific boosts are. I don't know if they get a default research boost or a default economy boost or both, or if they get random bonus technologies. But like, I will meet them on turn 100, and they'll have like fully researched dreadnoughts, like top tier dreadnoughts with like really awesome weapons and stuff. And it's like, you can't get there. Even with like a perfect game where everything goes in your favor in terms of luck, there's no way you could have this level of technology in 100 turns. And so that is...
that's the thing, is that games, the 4X games in general, it's very, very difficult to make an AI that is very intelligent about how to play. Yeah. So what they do is they start giving the AI help through cheats. It's, Civ does it, and it's very blatant. They give huge amounts of research bonuses, and they also start off with a lot more units.
Yeah. But Civ tells you, though, like in the different difficulties, Civ tells you what all the bonuses the AI gets. In this, it doesn't tell you. It's just easy, medium, hard AI. So I don't know what their bonuses are.
Yeah, but then again, we're talking, at least for me, modern Civ, Civ 5, which is still technically modern for another couple months.
That game came out in 2010, Civ 5?
Well, I was talking about the modern Civ, the latest Civ.
Yeah, sure.
Unless you want to talk about, the disappointment that was Beyond Earth.
Yeah.
Which actually would be a little bit more appropriate for this, but that's beside the point. But what about the Civ that was out when this came out? Did they tell you blatantly, the AI was cheating?
I think that was Civ 4. What year did Civ 4 come out? Because Sword of the Stars initially released in 2006 on, I think it had 2 DVDs inside the box. It was the first time I got this game. It came in a box.
Let's see. It was 2005, so that would be Civ 3, actually.
Okay. I honestly don't... It's been a decade since I've played Civ 3. I've never played Civ 3.
I played a little bit of Civ 4, but mostly Civ 5.
Yeah, Civ 3 was my starter Civ, and then Civ 4, I think, so far has been my favorite. But that's
from what I understand, Civ 4 is deeper, but the thing is, maybe it's just where I started playing with Civ 5, and then I went back to play Civ 4 some. I just don't like the death stacks, or the death balls.
Yeah. But I don't know if Civ 3 told you or not. But regardless, Sword of the Stars does not tell you. I assume it's an economy boost, because honestly, your research, everything revolves around your economy. If your economy is great, you will pull ahead. If your economy sucks, you will fall behind. So it's probably just they get a flat economy boost. So regardless, it makes them incredibly difficult to beat. They don't behave better tactically. They behave with the same tactics as they do on medium. They just have more stuff. So thankfully, it's easier to defend in a system than assault a system. So if you can hold whatever systems that they try and go after, which they will repeatedly attack the same system over and over and over again for whatever reason.
Dumb AI.
Yeah, it's just kind of a brute force thing. But if you can hold whatever system it is that they're attacking until you can catch up, you'll win. Because you can outthink them. You just have to survive their initial onslaught.
Which is generally how the AI in most 4Xs work anyway.
Yeah.
Unless you're up against Gandhi, then you're fucked.
Well, thankfully, Gandhi's not in space, at least as far as I know.
You gotta watch out for Space Gandhi. He'll nuke you from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
It is the only way to be sure. So yeah, I've just been playing it a ton, learning about the nuances of the races that I don't play very often. Because my main wheelhouse is the humans, the Tarkas, and the Hiver. Like, those are the three that I played the most. So I did like a quick refresher game, played through on easy, just so I could beat it in a couple hours and be like, okay, this is how this works, and this is how that works, just making sure my memory is still correct. And then I've had to play actually longer, more difficult games with the other three races to make sure I'm familiar enough to do a tutorial for them. So it's a long slog. It's a lot of work. I've got hours and hours and hours.
Well, hopefully you'll get a lot of views for this.
I hope so. I've got like 50 hours of background footage that I've captured, though.
So I guess you don't need me to send the LCD version of my still image for the podcast.
Sword of the Stars is going to be around for a little while. Maybe not 50 hours. That's an exaggeration. I've only actually played like 20, 25 hours in the past week. But
so you have enough for like 2, maybe 3 episodes of the podcast?
Yeah, something like that. But it's fun. I mean, it's not wearing on me. I take occasional breaks so that I don't burn myself out on it, but it's really fun. The game holds up very well in all aspects, in my opinion. In all aspects. Even graphically, it still looks pretty decent. That's the thing, though. You can get away with sci-fi. As long as your ship design is good, and your general art design is good, you can get away with that, because ships, that sort of thing tends to hold up over time.
Yeah, and ships are generally very angular. Well, at least in most sci-fi. It's very rare to see the smooth ships, outside of like some of the modern Star Wars.
Yeah.
Generally, you see a lot of boxy ships or a lot of angles, and that really lended to low poly models.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Freelancer, I think, is the best example. Like, the ship's designs still look great. The people look awful. So, that's...
and the voice acting is just terrible.
The voice acting is really bad for Sword of the Stars, too.
Well, the thing is that for Freelancer, you could tell the cuts between the voice chunks.
Yeah.
So the voice acting was just off enough where you could tell, okay, they're going to say this, then there's a cut, and they're going to say this, and there's a cut. But it's not just the voice acting; it's the script writing for the generic voice acting, because it is, very, very basic. I'm from this faction. We own this base, or we have an interest in this base, or we work with the people who own this base, or whatever. And then it's we have a mission for you, or some variation of that, and then the screen pops up for the mission. And that's literally every single generic NPC that gives you a mission in Freelancer.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't exactly like that. I mean, it's a lot of the kind of canned voices, like from RTS or whatever. If you click a unit, you'll get, their acknowledgement. Yeah. It's really bad.
Nice.
It's incredibly bad for the humans, because all of the alien races, they get little alien whatever's added to them. Like the Hivers are insects, so they get this little insect
clicking
kind of
sound
clicky
or whatever
sounds added to the voices, and it kind of gets by. The Tarkas are lizards, so they get kind of lizard sounds thrown in there, so they get by. But the humans, man, their voice, it's just awful. They've got like stereotypical Russian man and woman, stereotypical
I think
British.
We played War Thunder with them.
They've got stereotypical British man and woman. They've got stereotypical like nervous science guy. So it's just a lot.
Does he talk about it being a red letter day?
No, he does not. But yeah, it's
maybe he wants to just forget about that. The cat. 2 Half-Life references, or Half-Life 2 references. Well,
yep.
Just the sigh.
Anyways, yeah, no, it's funny for a little while, and then it just gets old. It just gets
much
really
like
old.
me.
Yeah, just like you, actually. So yeah, those are the games that I played this week. And So are you ready to move on to
Yeah,
our first?
I think so.
Yeah. So one caveat going into this topic, two topics. So we're going to talk about No Man's Sky, the refund system, and
Yeah,
then,
strap in.
and then the Steam refund system. And
This is
originally,
not so much about No Man's Sky, at least the second part of this.
right. So that's kind of why we split it up into two. I'll probably will still have each timestamped separately, but these two discussions are kind of tied together. So we might be referencing one or the other as we go back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with the No Man's Sky refund debacle.
I'm going to call it clusterfuck.
You could say clusterfuck.
Well, I'm glad because I just did. Well, unless you edited that out, but that requires effort.
That's too much work. Too much work. Anyways, so yeah, let me frame my position on this first, because I'm out of the two of us, I'm the only one who's played it, and I spent over an hour talking about it.
Yeah, you're the sucker.
I
You're not
Maybe.
You're not denying this.
maybe no, I did genuinely enjoy about half of my playtime with this game, and then the polish started to wear off. And what I thought that I was going to continue to like it for, which was I mean, go look at my Steam library. I've got a bunch of survival crafting games. I like that genre. And I've got a lot of space, kind of explory, survival-y games. I like that genre. So I thought that I would like No Man's Sky for that, and I didn't. That got incredibly old and boring and repetitive. So I liked about half of my playtime, and then from then on out, I was just bored.
I've heard a lot of people say No Man's Sky is the perfect game for stoners. Just have some weed, get some Doritos, some Mountain Dew, and go play No Man's Sky.
I could see that. But so anyways, so I liked about the first half of my playtime with it. I got really bored for the second half of my playtime with it. And I suspect that unless they really have some things that change the gameplay mechanics a lot, in particular,
You mean they actually live up to their promises once they start putting content into the game?
Yeah. Or just kind of do something to help you set better goals for yourself in the game, I'm not going to enjoy it. I feel like that I overspent on the game, and I mean, I made a bad purchasing decision, and I'm willing to admit that. So this is the frame of reference that I'm coming to with this discussion. I'm willing to acknowledge that I made a poor purchasing decision. So I think that's important, just so that you know that everybody listening knows where I'm coming from. Okay, so last weekend, so around the time that was it 2 weekends ago now? Because this had started when we recorded last week.
Yeah, this is a pretty mature topic at this point. Let's just call it 2 weeks just to be safe.
Okay.
Because in our show notes, we actually have 3 weeks worth of news because of your power outage once.
Right.
And we had the Game Club kind of eclipse everything in the last week's podcast, which I don't want to happen every single week, but for To the Moon, it pretty much had to, because that is a very deep game once you start breaking it down.
Yeah.
And get past the technical issues of it.
Right.
And yes, I'm still hung up on the technical issues because it was my first playthrough of it.
Right. Okay, so let's look. Okay, 2 weekends ago, Steam announced, and they did announce, I swear to God, I saw a post on Reddit where the announcement was there. Like, we will accept refunds, or we will grant refunds
I never saw this.
For No Man's Sky, regardless of playtime. There's one link that I'll try to find that was on PC Master Race that is just of that bar on the Steam page, but it doesn't have the entire page. It was like an announcement that they made.
So it could have been a fake. Trust but verify.
Yeah. But regardless, that came out. And so...
Yeah, and people started refunding in
People started
droves.
refunding like crazy.
I'm of the mind that that may have been a fake, but because so many people were refunding it, the refund system bugged out.
Well, there were...
Or people were getting through, because here's the thing, is that the 2 hours, 2 weeks deadline, that is a flexible thing. It's not a hard set rule. The automatic refund will go through if you're over one of those.
Yes, it will.
So I think it's more of just so many people were hammering the refund, and were over that and still went through, that it made it look like that it was just it was Arkham City all over again. It was a blanket refund.
Well, there were
that's my opinion, at least.
At minimum, there were 35,000 refunded copies.
Yeah, Steam Spy has been digging deep on this.
The maximum, this is just to allow room for mathematical errors, but the range is between 35,000 and 65,000 refunded copies of No Man's Sky on Steam. And that's just Steam. Other PSN or Sony was allowing you to refund the game. You had to go through their tech support and try and fix the game. But most people said that if they were, especially during the weekend and the first couple of days leading into the following week after that weekend, most people were saying, hey, I just told them that, I felt like that this game, the advertising was misleading and this wasn't the game that I bought. Citing things like multiplayer not being there and the huge graphical downgrade.
Oh, it's
and
there.
Like that.
It's a leaderboard. That counts as multiplayer.
And they were able to get refunds that way. And then other people were like, well, I just went through the whole tech support thing and they couldn't fix the problem I was having, so I got a refund. And then Amazon, being Amazon, was just refunding regardless. You just had to tell them, hey, I don't want this, and they would accept your
Shit's
refund.
broke, yo.
And then GOG was doing the same thing with their 30-day money back.
Yeah, GOG has a very, very lenient refund policy.
So, there were tons of copies that got refunded from elsewhere, but as far as I know, there's no numbers on any of the other refunds, just Steam because of Steam Spy. But, so there were a bunch of people that got refunded. Then it was Sunday or Monday, Steam put up a thing on the store page.
Oh, and also, there was also that Sony exec.
Yeah, there was a Sony exec who said that people who refund a game after 50 hours are thieves. Which, no, they're not. They got a refund. You might be able to, did you really, not enjoy it after 50 hours? But they got a refund.
That, granted, he's probably looking or thinking of the console version, but I'm willing to bet that there's people with 50 hours that didn't have more than 10 hours of gameplay, just trying to fix various bugs, or left it open, trying to just let it do its thing.
Yeah. But so then Steam put up a notice on the No Man's Sky store page. The standard 2-hour, 2-week thing applies. So then the automatic system quit working. But if you contacted Steam through the actual customer support ticket system, talked to someone, for a couple of days, they were still giving people refunds everywhere. If you were like, look, I only played this game for 9 hours or whatever. It's not the game that I was sold, false advertising, all that. So there were still plenty of people who got refunds that way. Then Steam completely shut that down last week, in the middle of the week sometime, around Wednesday, and just went, they put up an automatic response to all tickets sit in, asking for a refund for No Man's Sky, which was, it seems there's been some confusion about the refund policy for this game. The standard policy applies. Your account appears to be over the limit, so you're not getting a refund. And so they just did that. And for a while, they would still respond, even after people continued to question. But then they just went to radio silent. No responses to anybody's No Man's Sky tickets across the board, at least in the United States. Other countries, in particular Australia and EU countries, which have, and
stronger,
the UK, which
has
has stronger
consumer protection laws, which ties into Kyle's letter.
Right. Those people are still able to get refunds. They just have to cite the specific, I don't know what the specific numbers and everything is for the laws, but just cite the laws and say why you feel like No Man's Sky is breaking that law, and they're still giving refunds to people in Australia, the EU, and the UK. Which I guess technically the UK is still in the EU, but they voted to
not
leave,
for long.
Yeah. But so anyways, so those folks are still able to get refunds, but people in the US can't get refunds because we don't have those kinds of consumer protections. So
yeah, we got fucked.
I decided to do a bit of journalism, which sadly did not pay off very well.
Well, to be fair, you did more than what most sites do.
Thank you. So I did try and get a refund. I was like, well, I don't feel satisfied with my purchase. If I can get a refund, I'd like to get one, because unless there are some major changes to this game, I'm not going to play it anymore. Probably. So I tried to get a refund, but I got in after they had already posted the standard 2-hour, 2-week rules apply. And because Steam support sucks and it was being pretty badly bombarded anyways, I did not get a response until a couple of days after they had started putting up the automated message in the actual support that's supposed to be with people. So I messaged back and forth, like trying to ask questions and figure out, like, hey, why are you guys not acknowledging, not even talking to people about refunds anymore? This game has got evidence of false advertising, and even though I live in the U.S. and there's no consumer protection.
Well, Bob the intern is a little overwhelmed right now.
But this is still a case for false advertising, and you could lose a class action lawsuit if people came up against you. So why basically why are you doing what you're doing? I'm just curious. And after a few messages back and forth of just kind of generic, we're not we're just using the standard policy. We're just using the standard policy. They were like, we can't help you. We're not going to respond to you anymore. And then they closed the ticket.
Well, to be fair, you got more of a response from Steam than I think most people did.
Probably. And I just kind of let that go. I know that I can't convince Steam to do anything, and I doubt the roughly 1,000 people that have gathered on the... Hang on, let me pull this up here. On the Operation... No, on the Operation No Man's Sky Refund Discord group. I'm serious, that's a thing. You can go join if you want and chat with some of these people. I doubt the roughly 1,000 people that are there are going to be able to convince Steam anyways, because compared to their user base, 1,000 people is nothing.
Yeah.
But, there's this group, the Operation No Man's Sky Refund group, that are pushing Steam to get refunds. You can go to the page, and it's very active. Currently, there's 83 users online with 888 users offline.
May I say that I think I've had more enjoyment just hearing about No Man's Sky than I think I'll ever have playing it. Granted, by the time I actually have a chance to play it, they may have actually put in a little bit of content, so it's something I would call a game.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe it would actually live up to, an eighth of the promises that they had about this piece of shit.
On a quick aside, they released what was supposed to be the final patch for the game in terms of post-launch bug fixes, and it made the game worse. They don't release patch notes. All they release are general. It's like, we fixed a number of bugs that were the top reported. We fixed a number of bugs that we had time to fix.
Developers that don't do patch notes.
They don't have patch notes. But what the update did was introduce a whole host of other replicatable crashing bugs. People that were not having any problems at all are suddenly having like corrupted save files and stuff. A few new weird graphics glitches. And if everything works fine, the space combat is worse because the lock-on system now doesn't work properly. So you have lackadaisical controls with no auto-aim. And also you run slower. And you can't do the jetpack jumping, punching trick glitch.
Oh, yeah, I've seen people doing that and actually getting a decent amount of momentum with it, which... well, why would you want to be able to move fast in a fucking walking simulator? Because I'll be perfectly honest, that's what No Man's Sky looks like to me. It doesn't look like a survival game. It is very, very easy as a survival game. It is a walking simulator disguised as a survival game.
Yeah, so that doesn't work anymore. The only thing that they made better, at least as far as I can tell from trolling the subreddit, is...
Trolling?
Yes. So now the computer voice doesn't tell you that you're low on life support when it's at 75%.
That's really the only thing that they fucking fixed?
That's the only thing that they made better.
Oh, what a piece of shit.
Also, supposedly, if you go to take off on a planet and there's an asteroid or like a rock that spawns above you, you won't get stuck on the rock and die.
Well, I'm glad that they made this giant leap in technology.
So yeah, so they announced.
Imagine what you'd be able to do if you were actually able to fly the ship yourself instead of having an automated launch and landing sequence.
I'd fly into a rock of my own damn volition.
Oh, sorry, you can't do that. Pulling up, you can't kill yourself.
But so anyway,
did you ever watch the zero punctuation for this game?
Yes, I did.
Oh, it was glorious.
But so anyways, yeah, they announced in the massive response to all the new bugs they've created, well, we'll put out one more performance patch to fix the
better
issues
fucking
that are being
put out
reported.
another one.
Also, in other news, I got banned from the subreddit for 7 days for trolling. I mean, I was asking for it this time. Last time I got banned, I was having honest discourse, honest discussions with people, and my thoughts and feelings were not appreciated. They weren't the right thoughts and feelings. This time,
you weren't praising Sean?
I wasn't towing the line. This time, though, I was just being snarky. Like, people would be like, "Hey, I'm having this problem. How do I fix it?" And I'd be like, I'd say uninstall and play a better game, or ask for a refund, or just like being really, 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 really.
Just start handing out the link to the Discord.
But so yeah, I got banned for 7 days. Next time I'm going to go for a permanent ban. But anyways, way back to the news reporting of this. So that was my contact with Steam. Then there's this Discord group where that they are actually incredibly organized. Like, they've got a plan of action that's, feels very much just like general activism. Like,
well, here's the thing, is that what I've learned from Gamergate is that you do not piss off gamers because they will organize and start taking you down.
Yeah.
And gamers, they've ground for hours and hours in games. They're patient as hell.
Yeah. So there's roughly 1,000 people in this channel. Like, there's 3 just discussion channels, each with their own moderators, to help people like craft the best responses and tweets. And apparently they're getting bots, and they're going to start spamming the No Man's Sky Twitter and email. I guess the Hello Games Twitter and email. And they were going to spam Steam, but Steam is threatening to ban people if they spam. Like, ban them first from support, and then if they still like post on forums and stuff, they'll ban their accounts.
Well, here's the thing, is that Steam doesn't have really an official presence on Twitter at all. So maybe they're talking about spamming the tech support?
Maybe. But regardless, so they're next...
And that's really sad, really, is Steam doesn't have any real organized Twitter response, which they should.
Yeah, they definitely should. And then, like, the next stage of the plan that's listed here is call for a class action lawsuit against Hello Games in the United Kingdom.
Oh, this is so Steam, glorious.
And Steam, if that fails.
I'll just pick my word for the week, by the way.
Is it glorious?
No.
Okay. So
I think you'll love it, though.
So yeah, that's what this Operation No Man's Sky Refund is. And these are all, for the most... there's a couple of people who are just absolute asses here that I think are the kind of people that'll do anything to get a refund and, save that buck. But for the most part, these are people who genuinely feel like they were lied to, misadvertised, false all of that stuff, just generally let down. And it's like, yeah, I only played the game for 9 hours before I, decided that I didn't like it. And this kind of game, like, you can't figure that out in 2 hours. It took me 9 to figure it out, and I can't get a refund.
Rule 1, do not pre-order.
Yeah. Well, I didn't pre-order, but...
Yeah, but you kind of blindly jumped in anyway.
I wasn't early. No, I didn't blindly jump in. I read a bunch of reviews for the PS4 stuff because content.
Yeah, I still don't understand why you bought this game.
Because I thought I was going to like it. I read the PS4 reviews, which the content I knew was going to be the same. I expected the PC to perform better, but
see.
Anyways,
so here's the thing: never go off a console review for PC.
Well, I thought I was going to like it.
You know that now, right?
I thought I was going to like the game. Like, I thought the content was right up my alley. I've got tons of survival.
Wait, this game has content? Since when? Did they put in the patches already?
I've got tons of survival games in my library. I thought I was going to like it. I like space. I like exploration. I like having a podcast game. I played Elite Dangerous just as, like, running the same trade run for 6 hours, listening to a podcast. Like, yeah, this is fun. But No Man's Sky just didn't have that appeal.
Well, I think the problem with No Man's Sky, granted, I will say I haven't played it, but this is an outsider looking in, is that there are the bare bones of what could have been a lot better game, but they made so many just boneheaded design decisions. The UI is just a mess. How they handle your inventory and your upgrades is just horrendous. All the little pauses with interacting with every single object would just drive me fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, I made a bad purchasing decision. I realized that, you know, I just was wrong about what I thought the game was going to be. And that's basically where I stand on this.
Which I am sad that you're wrong, because I didn't want this game to be bad. I do not celebrate games coming out to be bad.
Oh no, I don't either.
I will hold them to way overhyping this, and I will enjoy the gamers just tearing them apart for their just a blatant abuse of them. That's where I'm getting the enjoyment for this.
Right.
But I don't want this to be a bad game. It's the same thing that has me with Paul's for Star Citizen, is that this seems too good to be true. Yeah. And there's just so much money behind this and so much hype. It just has me, holding back. Granted, there is a lot more information out there, and it's actually technically playable. I know it isn't for you.
Yep. That game still won't install on my machine. I tried. Well, it'll install, but it won't open.
But it's maybe it's just the thing that after Spore, which Spore was the catalyst for this feeling for me. I'd rather be surprised when a game comes out that's actually good and lives up to the hype than listen to the hype and be let down time and time again. Because let's be perfectly honest. If you compare the two, games that live up to their hype completely and games that just flop when compared to their hype, especially modern AAA games in the last, let's call it 2 or 3 years, games that do not live up to their hype and just, if you try to hold them to their pre-release media, the E3 demos, the pre-release stuff, they just don't hold up and you would be let down. I'd rather be surprised. Maybe I'm just being a wet blanket, I don't know. But it seems like in modern gaming, that's the sensible way to go. That's the frugal way to go. So, and that's the way to go if you have a horrendously long backlog that you just wait, a year for a game.
I usually do. But I buy 2 or 3 brand new games a year. I mean, I have the budget for it, so
the thing is that, I'll buy games new as they come out, or, full price on Steam. I mean, I bought Rimworld full price when it came out on Steam. Granted, I knew exactly what I was getting into because I've seen a lot of content for that game, so I wasn't buying it blindly.
Yeah.
Factorio, the same thing. Granted, I haven't played it nearly as much, and I don't think it really justified its purchasing price.
I did.
Yeah. Well,
I definitely did.
But then again, I tend to lean towards the indie side of things. Maybe that'll be a good question of the week. AAA or indie? If I don't come up with something else before I start posting Twitter stuff. Or scheduling, I should say.
Yeah. But, I buy 2 or 3 brand new games a year. And sometimes you get a hit, sometimes you get a miss. And sometimes you miss so far that you land inside an open septic tank. And that's what this one was.
See, I'm a little shocked that the automated landing system can land in a septic tank, considering just how that game handles.
It's very good at landing in weird places. Sometimes you're on top of a tree. Sometimes it's like a speck of dust so that you're floating in the air. Sometimes it's a big pile of shit,
Well, you are playing No Man's Sky.
Absolutely.
But you have to have the automated landing system because gamers won't be able to handle landing with your shitty controls.
One of the most satisfying things about Elite Dangerous is like flying in and getting like a really nice landing, like a high-speed landing on the pad. That's so satisfying. It's like, yeah, I got it in there just right.
Yeah, that Elite Dangerous looks very interesting to me. Granted, they been doing some expansions that put me off a little bit of it. But then again, I haven't really dove into what is going on behind that. I just heard a lot of hubbub about it.
Yeah,
and it just kind of backed me off from it, and I'm not that sold on it to begin with.
Yeah, I bought Elite Dangerous on release. 2 years ago? Now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I played it for a solid 6 months. Fun game. Very repetitive though. I mean, it's got great mechanics, really well balanced. It'll keep you pulled in, but eventually, at least to the point where I was, there was no landing on planets. The asteroid mining system was really shitty. They hadn't expanded it like it is now. Combat, while balanced, tended to be pretty boring, especially against computer or against the AI. So, supposedly all of that's different, but I haven't played it in a long time. But yeah, the last bit of journalism that I did for No Man's Sky was I contacted Hello Games and was like, hey, I run a gaming podcast. I'd love to.
I'm a professional podcaster.
Yeah, I was like, I run a gaming podcast that has, this many weekly views, this many subscribers. Just love to get a statement.
Did you add a 0 to the end of that?
Maybe. I added a 0.
You really did?
No, I didn't.
I wasn't sure if you were joking or not.
No, I didn't actually lie. I mean, we've had decent subscriber and viewer numbers now. I mean, we're not huge by any sense of the imagination.
But we don't have a hell of a lot of interaction. We have a fair amount.
Usually
when you're stirring up shit.
We can say that we're in the hundreds. Honestly, we're in the triple digits. But regardless, that's beside the point. I was like, hey, we would just love a statement about how you guys are responding to all of the uproar about No Man's Sky allegedly being misrepresented and having all these missing features and yada yada yada. And no response, nothing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow, it's so incredible that there's so many people playing our game. But no, it was radio silence.
Wow, it's so amazing. So many people are trying to debug our game.
So yeah, that was my bit of journalism about this whole No Man's Sky refunds thing.
To do some photoshopping on No Man's Sky's Steam page, and we'll see how creative I am, or how /creative I get. I kind of want to put in the early access box.
Yeah,
and just be as snarky as hell in the text.
The thing about this game,
if they released an early access at $25 to $30 price tag, I don't think really anybody would be bitching about this.
I think that, if it released in early access, or even as a complete game for $20, $25, people would at the very least not be
as
destroying.
If it was a full release, then I think there would still be a lot of complaints, even at a $30 price tag. But if they use the early access system, which I'm not sure if there's one on PlayStation 4 yet. I know there's one on Xbox. I'm not sure if Sony has done one yet. I mean, it's Sony and Nintendo is the only ones that I'm not sure of, or know they don't have one yet.
Nintendo doesn't for sure.
I
don't think Sony does.
I'm sure Nintendo doesn't. I can't remember if Sony doesn't or not. And I haven't really been able to gotten to check, but I'm pretty sure that they don't. And the thing is that Sony was heavily marketing this game. They were heavily pushing this game. If they had an early access system or early access-like system and put No Man's Sky in as the better game for it, and then put Steam in as early access, nobody would be bitching about this game.
Yeah. I think if this game had come along as an indie sort of darling smash hit, instead of having Sony behind it and just kind of come out of nowhere, I think this game would be best, like, Game of the Year material for a lot of people. If it just came out of nowhere. And really
the thing is that there was so much hype behind it and hiding behind their trailers that there was no way that they were not going to have Spore-like expectations.
Yeah. So, I think that's as far as we can go now without talking about the Steam refund system in general. So
let's take it to Kyle.
Yep. Kyle
has escaped from the corner.
He sent us a roughly a 10-minute audio letter talking about this subject, and we decided to kind of bookend the two, or stick it in between the two discussions, because it covers a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So,
well, look at it this way. It's a lazy way for you to find the timestamp for the second half of this.
That is a very good point. I actually will have to look at the timestamp to put in the audio letter. So,
and hopefully you'll remember it this week, because there was one that you forgot last week.
Whoops. But yeah, so let's go to Kyle, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Greetings, J. Arthur and Caffeine Rage. This is Kyle coming at you about Steam and the refund debacle over No Man's Sky. Now, No Man's Sky is a game that has been less than popular on Steam as people have actually gotten a chance to play it. People are accusing it of false advertising and not being well optimized and not being the experience that they expected. Well, to those people, I have two very unfortunate words to keep in the back of your head throughout the rest of this little chat. Those two words are caveat emptor. Caveat emptor is Latin, and loosely translated it means buyer beware. See, in America, we don't have a large number of consumer protection laws. Now, obviously, we have a few to ensure that any particularly deadly product will not endanger consumers, but as long as the product isn't actually posing any real physical danger, the United States government could really care less about it. So how does this relate to No Man's Sky? Well, No Man's Sky was a game that was being developed for years and was very tight-lipped about what would be in it. It was sold largely on the idea of explore a universe and stuff. Yeah, totally stuff. I mean, guys, this game is so cool, guys. No, seriously, trust us. And that was largely the tone of the marketing. And for whatever reason, people decided that that was enough to get them to buy into the game. Now, armed with only that knowledge and a fistful of dollars, a large majority of the supporters for this game bought the pre-release, which was largely marketed on Steam. You could get it other places too. But the PC version is what we're going to be talking about, because these users bought the game at 60 bones without actually being able to A, play it and judge for themselves what it would be like, and B, have no guarantee that it would be what they intended when they decided to put forth their money. Which is why VGL has the first rule of VGL: thou shalt not pre-order. But then last month the game released for PC, and PC players finally got a chance to see what several years of development looked like for a game like this. And what it turned out it looked like is opening on a random planet where you had to fix and craft things. Now this was a far, far shot from the explore everything. You're going to have this universe to explore, and it's just going to be so much fun. It turned it into a crafting game. Which, okay, that's not bad, but it wasn't advertised as that, and it lost some people. It also lost other people to a more pressing problem. On release, the PC version actually had a just astronomical, no pun intended, number of graphical glitches, bugs, places where the procedural generation shit itself. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if people weren't, well, blinded by confirmation bias, I think, is the closest thing you would say. J. Arthur, you can, give me the actual correct term after this letter. But because they waited so long for this game and they just wanted it to be good, they saw all of the good without seeing any of the bad that couldn't be fixed in a patch. And that's dangerous because Steam, with their refund service, has a time limit on how long you can play the game before you can return it. See, Steam, well, they deal in digital goods, which is awesome because I don't need to set aside a huge part of my house for my gaming library, and it prevents Rage from having to build his house out of his game boxes, considering that he has over 1,000 games. But that means it's harder to return things. How do you return coding and other things? How do you, as a company, prevent people from downloading the game, copying all of the code, and then selling you back the license to the game and still having access to the game itself? And this was a question that Steam had for a long time and eventually answered, I want to say, in 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. They introduced the Steam refund system. Now, the Steam refund system was kind of an ingenious little thing. It was a blanket policy that stated if you played a game for 2 or fewer hours, you could return the game, no questions asked. And I mean, I've used this myself when Steam accidentally bought 2 copies of a game, or when I bought a game and I meant to buy a different game, and it's pretty nice. Now, the problem is, not all games show their hand within the first 2 hours. And this kind of was the case with No Man's Sky. Now, the reasons vary from person to person with No Man's Sky, whether it was because they were on a planet that took them more than 2 hours to get off, so they couldn't really judge the game for themselves for the first 2 hours, or they launched the game, saw all the bugs, played it for a little while in spite of that, and then launched it again just to check if the bugs were gone, and they did this to the point where they expired their 2 hours. Now, on the store page, No Man's Sky has terrible reviews, basically saying, do not buy this game, it's buggy, it was falsely advertised, and just general hate towards everything No Man's Sky since release. Now, there are still some ardent and hardened supporters of the game, that's not the point. The point is, for a little while, Steam and several other retailers, but I'm going to focus on Steam here because it's the one I understand the best, opened up a no limit, no questions asked look. If you think you were sold something that you didn't want to buy through false advertising, you can return this game, no questions asked. And people took them up on it in droves. Now, after the initial explosion of all of the returns, Steam decided, nope, we're going to have our standard return policy apply. That's the 2 hours thing. We don't care what you were sold, caveat emptor. And that seems kind of shitty, but they are entirely in their rights to do that. I know, what a surprise. The business scientist taking the side of the business in this particular case, but hold on here. Steam already had a return policy, which, if you played No Man's Sky, saw all the bugs, decided you did not want to play it, and return it, that would have been fine. You would have gotten your money back. But because there was such public outcry about this game, Steam decided to make a special case out of it and allow people to return it, no questions asked. Now, when Steam started losing a large, and I mean large, amount of No Man's Sky sales to this, they decided to stem the bleeding in order to save the bottom line. And as an American-based company, they are allowed to change their mind about the return policies. I mean, if Steam wanted to, they could shut down the Steam return service, now, if they wanted to. I seriously doubt they will, but they could. The point is, in America, we have a very free market capitalist system, which means the industry trends are largely set by the industry itself rather than a government regulatory body. Is that the best system? I don't know. Maybe a happy middle would probably be better, but as it sits, Steam isn't in the wrong. So what exactly am I implying? Am I implying that gamers are entitled little shits that need to just shut up, sit down, and be glad that the industry gives us anything at all? No, of course not. I think that a happy middle ground could be reached if these companies worked with gamers to come up with a system that both fit business needs for the companies and ensured wonderful customer service for the gamers. And I don't know, I don't see that happening in the near future, but if there's a concerted effort that's put forward, I don't know, maybe it could happen. So what then are the legal implications of this? Well, maybe we need stronger consumer protection laws in this country, but I don't necessarily think more regulation is the way to go. Obviously, we shouldn't deregulate the system, because any system that becomes deregulated suddenly becomes more unstable and less consumer-friendly. But so, too, I think that we should really, as gamers, push for the system that we want. If we want a system where we can return a game no questions asked, based on the quality of the game, and if we give a reason for it, sure, yeah, that would be an amazing system, but we are going to have to approach the companies about that, because without that, they have absolutely no incentive to change. See, here's the thing. As a consumer, gamers are more powerful than the companies would like to let on that they are. See, money is the lifeblood of a corporation, and if they get into a position where they're pissing off their consumer base to the point where they start losing sales, believe me, things will change. Now, am I proposing a boycott of Steam? Hell no. I'm just saying, I don't know. We're going to need to work together to come up with a solution that benefits all involved. Anyways, I feel like I'm starting to circle a little bit, so I'm very interested to hear what y'all have to say about this. Alright, have a good night.
Alright, thank you very much, Kyle, for that rather lengthy legal explanation.
Yeah, and I'm recording, by the way, from a stately Rage Manor made from all my game boxes. My recording studio is in the wing made of all the shitty Minecraft clones.
Right. So, also, Kyle, confirmation bias is appropriate. You could use confirmation bias, and that would be good enough, except I'm going to be pedantic. And the fully correct term is a post-action rationalization. In this case, the action would be the purchase of No Man's Sky, and the rationalization for that purchase would be to counteract the fact that it's not what they thought it would be. So they would say, maybe I just don't understand it yet. Or Hello Games' vision for the game is something that goes beyond what normal people consider for video games. You know,
or it will be good once the content is put in through post-release patching.
Yeah, or this game will meet all of my expectations with the next patch. That sort of thing. So, I mean, in layman's terms, that's fine. Confirmation bias would work, and I wouldn't really correct anybody in general conversation, but...
Except just now.
Well, because I'm going to be pedantic about it, because you were like, and Jared can tell me if I'm wrong. Technically you're correct, but...
Which is the best form of correct.
But really, I'm just being a pedantic dick right now. So there you go.
Well, there's something that's new. Oh, wait, no.
Yeah. So, okay. Rage, you said you didn't take too many notes, but
it was mostly just tying into the consumer protection. And what we actually really already talked about, that the United States, you're kind of fucked if the software just is completely broken. I mentioned briefly Arkham City. No Man's Sky going full Arkham City, where Arkham City had... so to date, I believe, has been the it's the only AAA release that's had a blanket refund policy. I think there was one. There was War Z that had a blanket refund policy as well, but that was actually before the Steam refund policy. So I'm not sure if that actually counts.
Do you mean Arkham Knight? Because Arkham City was
Arkham Knight. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant. Just.
Yeah, well, I mentioned Arkham Knight before, so
yeah.
I was trying to think of the indie game. So War Z City,
I got you. No, just clarifying. Pretty sure that's what you meant, but just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, me fucking up on names? No.
Well, I mean, I also could have been wrong. I mean, there could have been something for...
Well, there was a lot of outrage about Arkham City as well when it came out, because it also had a lot of issues. As a matter of fact, all the Arkham games except for Arkham Asylum has had at least some running issues.
Did not know that. Not a huge fan of the Batman Arkham series. Not that it's a bad series of games.
I like the Arkham series. Well, for the most part. Granted, I've only played 2 of the 4.
Yeah. They're just kind of out, I'm about to shock everyone here. I'm not the biggest fan of Batman. So the Arkham games don't really
here's the thing:
is
that Batman is a Gary Sue. He's claiming to not have a superpower, but his superpower is that he is unbeatable. He is Spider-Man without the humor. You give him enough time, and he will beat Superman. Which, let's be perfectly honest, Superman versus Batman. Superman just looks at him, hits him with the heat vision, and Superman is a winner over a very toasty and crispy Batman.
Batman has beat Superman a couple of times in the DC comic series.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, it's in just a straight up fight. Granted, Batman, he's crazy as fuck. He is, has a lot of bats in the belfry.
He's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, he is. I would love to hear you sometime just go into the psychological disorders of Batman, because you probably write a textbook about him.
I could. Maybe I will. I don't know. I got a couple of projects I'm working on right now.
Well, there's another project for you. Just doing psychological profiles on superheroes.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I bet I could build an entire YouTube channel around that. Oh my gosh. Rage, you have given me the greatest idea ever.
Just be sure to link to me.
I will. I'll credit you as being the person who inspired me to do it. Anyways, So consumer protection, yeah, the U.S. doesn't really have any, unless
Yeah, it
your
reminds me of
product
George
is...
Carlin. The person that says buyer beware was probably bleeding out the asshole.
I love George Carlin.
Yeah. Can we resurrect him, please? I have a few comics that we could trade.
I'd love to resurrect George Carlin. But anyways, see, I think the U.S. needs more consumer protection, particularly in the digital realm. I think we need more consumer protection in general.
Yeah.
But definitely in the digital realm, we are way behind.
Things have to be killing people to really get a recall here. But here's the thing, and here's why I'm not 100% behind more regulation in video games is that I don't trust modern politicians with video games.
Yeah.
Because we'll end up like Australia. We'll end up like Germany, where games are censored the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that gives me pause, is that I just don't trust the politicians.
That's fair. I mean, more government control does, give
and considering some of our major politicians are heavily anti-game, or were at least in the past heavily anti-game, has since gone silent about it. It doesn't inspire me with confidence.
Yeah, I mean,
I would like to wait at least another 10 to 15 years before I'd really trust politicians with gaming, just because then you would start to get more gamers, or at least people that have grown up with video games, into Congress, into major government positions.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say that U.S. politics tends to average around 10 years, or 10 to 20 years behind the rest of the developed world.
Also, they're finally figured out the debate on the VHS tape.
So that's about right.
Can't wait to hear what they say about the CD-ROM.
That's about right, though, for when I think American politicians will be able to handle this in a, mature, responsible fashion. But
I mean, just how many times have they tried to strike down net neutrality?
A few times.
Yeah, in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's almost become an annual fucking thing.
That is a fundamental problem, though, with the United States, like our culture. We're a very capitalist culture, a very free market culture, and personally, I disagree with that. I think that the United States needs to be a little bit more in the center in terms of how we regulate our market. I don't think there's enough market.
Yeah, I have to admit that I'm
States.
A little bit jealous hearing the protection that the UK has, for example, for their consumers.
Yeah. I mean, the United States has got monopolies that are starting to pop up, or starting to get very close to popping up.
Just look at cable companies.
Yeah, that was the example I was about to use. Look at the cable companies. I mean, they're receiving... I actually read an article today about Comcast's data caps, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was something like 50,000 complaints a month are being filed against Comcast by its users, and so far nothing has happened to them. It was crazy. It blew my mind. Like, how can they get away with that? But that's just the U.S. quote unquote free market.
Well, here's the thing: is that sure they get 50,000 complaints to. Oh, this is to the FCC.
Yeah, to the FCC.
But how much money does their lobbyists give to the politicians?
Probably $50,000 a complaint.
Yeah, and see, this is why I'm hesitant to say that government should get into video games, and that's why the ESRB was established, just to keep government out of video games.
Yeah,
because they were threatening to come in and put in a rating system, and the video game industry decided to self-regulate and put in the rating system themselves, just to keep the government out. Because at the time they were calling Mortal Kombat a murder simulator.
Yeah,
or was it Doom? Or they were calling murder simulators, saying photorealistic depictions of murder.
Yeah.
Which, granted, early 90s, if they called that photorealistic, do you imagine what the same politicians are thinking now? Because those are the same politicians that are still in office. These are career politicians. They will die before they're out of power.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these positions that they're in either have very long term limits or, no term limits.
Yeah. And even with the term limits, it's really hard to remove an incumbent in that sort of position.
Yeah.
Particularly because most states tend to be either or in their political stance. There's very little
you
middle
have to have a
ground in the
politician
US.
really fuck up to lose an incumbent position.
Yeah, so yay, U.S. politics. Our government sucks. There's no...
Yeah, and just think of what we're going to be complaining about around November, early November.
Oh, God, I don't want to think about it. I try really hard not to think about it, which is the exact opposite of how I usually behave around election time, but I just want it to go away. And yes, I know that burying my head in the sand is not the correct way to respond. I am politically active. I send in letters and things to my politicians, but I just want to wake up from this nightmare. That's how I feel about it. I just
want it to
wake
be
up.
over at this point.
Yeah.
Because honestly, let's be perfectly honest. At least where I live, my vote doesn't matter.
Oh, mine probably doesn't either. Because the electoral college system is ridiculous in the 21st century, but we seriously need to stop talking about politics.
Yeah.
Or you make me want to go get more alcohol instead of more tea.
And this isn't the drunk episode. We actually were talking about doing a drunk episode.
Yeah. So, anyways, consumer protection. Basically, me and you say that we need more of it.
Yeah, we need more. It's just I don't trust the politicians to do it.
Right.
And here's the thing: is that the industry isn't going to do it either, because just look at the major journalism sites. They are heavily anti-consumer.
Yeah.
How many times in the last, let's call it decade, have you seen the word entitled in a headline? Starting, let's say, around Mass Effect 3, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And I realize that's not a decade, that's more like 5 years or 6 years.
Mass Effect 3 was really the first time I started noticing it.
Yeah, but it was before that as well. But
I'd been doing game stuff for a while at that point, but Mass Effect 3, whenever people were really upset about the ending, because they felt like they had gone that way and it was just like a big waste of time and that their choices didn't matter, that's when I first started seeing it. And I feel like that entitled becomes more popular as a term that these games journalism, with air quote sites, throw around a lot more.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that the game journalism sites are really buddy-buddy with the game publishers and the game developers, to the point that it is just reeking of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And so having them stand up for the consumer, it's just not going to happen, because if they try to stand up and say, this game is shit, if that's not the popular opinion across all the sites, because that's something you may notice, is that a lot of sites tend to agree with their editorials.
Yeah.
Or I should say the major sites. You'll see more indie sites. Well, that's part of the reason why I like TechRaptor, is that they are an indie site. And they will not toe the line. They'll have their own opinion. Their editorials agree, and you'll have it where they all stand with the publishers. You won't see them talk about microtransactions in a AAA game as a bad thing, typically. Either they won't mention it at all, which tends to happen because the publishers will actually hide it. They'll have it where, in the newest Deus Ex game, Mankind Divided, not Human Revolution, the store page in that game, the microtransactions, was actually disabled in the review copies. That store button wasn't there. So the reviewers had no clue it was there. How the fuck are the game journalism sites not tearing them apart for doing that? It's because they are buddy-buddy with the publishers. They know that if they stand up to the publishers and say, this is bullshit, they're going to get blacklisted. They won't get the review copies anymore.
I don't think they're worried about review copies. I think they're worried about the ad partnerships that they get.
Well, here's the thing, is that it kind of goes hand in hand, because if they don't get that early review copy, then they're not going to get their world premiere, their full review coming out the nanosecond that the embargo's over. So they're not going to get all those views, so the ads aren't worth as much.
Yeah, fair play.
Which I really think that there should be a third party, an industry third party, standing between the publishers and the journalism sites. And that they shouldn't be going to lunch with, going to lunch, going to dinner with the game publishers. They should have their interviews, and that should be it.
Yeah.
It's just looking at it a lot more the last couple of years, especially after the whole gamers are dead just clusterfuck. Which I'll be perfectly honest. How does that move work when you're actively insulting your user base? What is your game plan there, really?
I don't know. I mean, there's only so much abuse people will take. People put up with it for a little while most of the time, but there's only so much people will take.
Yeah, which is why a lot of the sites saw a downturn in their traffic, at least temporarily. I think some have recovered. It's just ridiculous. Just the corruption and the lack of consumer protection in games journalism.
Yeah. Okay, let's try.
And that's why we use massive sarcasm quotes when we usually talk about game journalism.
Yeah. So let's try and save this a little bit, because I looked at the time, and we're going to be cutting stuff again this week. So let's try and save this a little bit. Let's focus on the refunds now. Do you think that there's a way to fix the Steam refund system?
There is not a blanket way to fix this, just because there is no way to say, okay, this amount of hours, this amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this amount of time after purchase. Yeah, I think 2 weeks is actually pretty lenient, but you can't go this many hours just because, okay, if you say 10 hours, you just cut out a lot of AAA games, a lot of single-player games, I should say.
Right.
And a hell of a lot of indie titles.
Well, I came up with a solution that I think is the best
this
solution that I've ever heard of. Heard of. I came up with it, so you're hearing it now.
Oh boy.
So I posted on Twitter just a little tease today, the day of recording, not the day of release. So I'm calling my system to. I was really joking.
Oh, is this the giveaway thing?
Yeah. To make Steam great again. My refund policy, I'm calling it the 2420 refund policy. And I said on Twitter, anybody who guesses it correctly will get a free game from me. And that is, of course, up until you listen to this, Kyle, who listens early.
Cheeky little monkey.
And Chemist sometimes too. As soon as you hear it, then you can't guess anymore, because obviously you'll know the answer. So Rage,
we're cutting this on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when I actually get it posted up. But anyways, so Rage, I know you made a joke earlier, but I actually want you, if you can think of anything, to try to make
you said 2420?
Yeah, the 2420 refund system.
Well, what I was going to tie it into was user reviews, if it's below a certain threshold of reviews.
That is incorrect. It's all a factor of time.
All right, I'm not 100% sure then.
Okay. It's 2 hours, quarter of the time to complete, or 20 hours. All right? So we're going to throw out the whole 2 weeks thing. That's gone. It's now only a matter of time.
I'm not 100% sure if I agree with having a no time limit, hard time limit on the time after purchase.
Let me explain. Okay. That is, in my mind, you could keep it in, and it wouldn't really change very much for my system, I don't think. But in my mind, the 2 week returns is indicative of a physical product. You can't break code. You can't drop a piece of code and break it.
Not with that attitude.
And then try and refund it. Code doesn't rust. Code doesn't have packaging
what about Rust?
That you can unwrap. Well, Rust is just the name. So in my mind, the 2 week to return thing doesn't apply, because it's not a physical object. I could see, I thought about this a lot, and I could see an argument being made if you refund it after a year, what is that? What is that? And in my mind, it doesn't matter, especially for a company like Steam, who has got all of this money. And yes, I know that the money eventually comes back out from the developers, but Steam is the one who's fronting the cost. So
here's the thing:
even if a developer goes
with the
under,
time limit, if you don't have that, you could just Steam sale, buy the game, and then if you don't get around to play it, a year goes by. The next Steam Winter Sale goes on, for give an example, and it goes a slightly deeper discount. It seems a little mean to the developer to allow the customers to refund a year-old purchase to save $1.
I mean, there is definitely...
because the price difference for the developer, because the way the refund actually works is that a refund actively loses the developer money because they are still losing all that money, but Steam is still to keep their cut.
I know that the system has room for
maybe
abuse.
I'm being a little overly generous.
I seriously considered all this stuff. Like, I can take a picture later and maybe tweet it out once this episode releases if people want to see it. But I actually sat down and made like a pros and cons list, worked through all these things, and I mean, I spent like a good 2 or 3 hours working on this over the course of a couple of days. Like, I really put some thought into it. So I realized that there is a place for abuse from this on both sides, both on a consumer standpoint and then
any policy for refunds has room for abuse.
Yes, and from the developer side, there's also room for abuse. But like I said, I think that this is the best that I could come up with. So anyways, the 2 for 20, 2 hours, which is currently the Steam's maximum, is the minimum. So if you've got a short game, like 5 hours, the 25% rule is the one in the middle. So 25% of the estimated time to completion. So if you've got a 5-hour game, 25% of that is obviously less than 2 hours. So the 2-hour minimum applies. That's what it's at now. Developers have been working with it, and I think that's pretty fair for small games. If your experience honestly lasts less than 2 hours, it needs to be super compelling to garner someone's purchase anyway.
It needs to have a packaged-in blowjob.
Pretty much, yeah. So the 2 hours is the minimum. Then 25%, because the thing that people really struggle with is like, well, what if a game is, like 12 hours and the refund time is set at 10 hours? That's most of the game.
Well, here's my problem with 25% is who determines 25%? Or who determines where 25% is?
The developer gets to determine 25%. If they are found...
Don't tell me you just went offline.
Huh?
Well, you just went completely silent in the middle of your sentence there.
Oh, no.
So repeat that and put a note in to edit that.
Okay. So the developer gets to determine the time to beat. But there is a system in place where if multiple users report that the developer has lied, that it's false, they immediately get jacked up to the maximum 20-hour refund mark, which is the 20 hours. So games like No Man's Sky, Skyrim, etc., which could feasibly be played, at least according to developer claims, for hundreds of hours. Obviously, if you do 25% of 1,000 hours, that's 250 hours. That's too much. That's basically play all you want for free and then refund the game. So 20 hours is the maximum. And I mean, No Man's Sky is the example I'm going with. Like, in the first dozen hours whether or not No Man's Sky is going to be for you. It takes about that long to assess, unless you just have massive technical problems and right off the bat.
I really think 20 hours is way too high as a maximum. I think 10 hours would be a better maximum for even something like No Man's Sky. That is, in 10 hours what you're thinking of that game.
No, I don't think so. It took me roughly 9 hours to figure out that I liked it. And yes, that's under the 10-hour mark. But there are people who would have had more enjoyment. There were plenty of people who have reported, it took me about 12 or 13 hours to, I just kept looking for that thing, that they had promised in the game, and I couldn't find it. And, it took me 13 hours to realize I just wasn't going to find it. And I think that's very fair. So I think the 20-hour mark is on point in terms of generosity versus, not being too crazy.
Maybe it's just I've seen way too many developers that abuse the system. There's actually been some reports recently about some indie devs banning users that raise legitimate concerns from their actual game. So maybe it's just me being a wet blanket once again.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with a refund.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that having an abusable system by the developer just feels like it's just asking for more trouble. Especially with how Steam's customer service works as it is right now. I think before any system like this could be put into place, Steam needs to do a complete overhaul. No, wait, I take that back. They need to instate customer service.
Yeah.
Because right now, there is practically no customer service. You wait weeks to have your tickets responded to. You need to have that time down to a day as the average time. It shouldn't be, I heard from customer support in a couple of days, and people who go, wow, that's amazing. It should be, wow, that took them a while.
Yeah.
And this is one of the places that I do praise EA for. One of the few places, I might add. EA has gone and worked heavily on their customer support for Origin. And that's something that Steam really needs to copy, is that for any refund policy changes, or even their current system, they need to have a lot better customer support, which there are hints that they're working on it. And Gaben has talked about they're trying to work on their customer support, because right now it is an absolute joke. It's a meme to talk about bad customer support from Steam.
Yeah. But, so yeah, that's the system I came up with, the 2-4-20 system. I feel like it's working with what we already have, the 2 hours, which for most games, honestly, probably like, I would say 85% of games is enough. The 2-hour limit is enough. The sliding scale in the middle covers games that take a little bit longer to get into. These are your big RPGs, your Skyrims, your No Man's Sky type experiences, the occasional MMO that pops up on Steam that's not free to play, which there might not even be on right now, but I know that there used to be. So games that take longer to get into. And then the 20 hours is a hard cap to prevent those really crazy, like 1% ridiculously long promised experiences like No Man's Sky from basically becoming free to play.
I still think 20 is probably being a little overly generous, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would be willing to be argued down to 15 hours, but I'm not going any lower than 15 hours. I think 10 hours is not enough. How about 14? Time. Nope, 15. I think 10 hours is not enough. Because, looking for the maximum.
I think with games being so different from one another, it's hard to really argue a hard limit just in general. I think it almost has to be game to game. And the way Steam support is right now, you can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, why I came up with the percentage. Just, it gives it a bit of a sliding scale. And I actually worked with different percentage numbers. And I used Skyrim as my base. Because Skyrim, if you play just the main story, and you play it at a moderate pace, it'll take you roughly 40 hours to complete, start to finish. I think How Long to Beat has it at 38 hours. So, 40 for easy math. 25% of that is 10 hours. And I feel like that for Skyrim, if you're on the fence about it, 10 hours is more than enough to figure out, like, do I want this game? Do I not want this game? Because honestly, the first few hours of Skyrim are really boring.
Well, to be fair, most Elder Scrolls games, as a matter of fact, the 3 that I played, the first few hours are really boring.
That's very true. And I mean, that
Morrowind is probably the closest to the most exciting just because of how alien the world is, but that's more of the theme. It's still, what the fuck is going on? Where am I supposed to go? Because you're given a journal and say, okay, go to this town, but you're not really given a way to get to that town. You have to figure out, okay, I need to talk to the guy standing next to the giant flea.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that I think that gives plenty of time for people to figure out on those games. And I think that 40 hours is kind of your upper limit for most ways that they're going to measure it doing main story stuff. So, I mean, that gives you roughly 10 hours. And then, like I said, the 20 hour is there for those just like crazy games, like No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
So that was the system I came up with, and I was really proud of myself. And yes, it's not perfect. It's open to abuse from both ends, but honestly, every system is going to be not perfect and open to abuse. So, I'm absolutely welcome criticism from listeners, and if you have any ideas for how to improve my system, or if you think it's all just bullshit, just send us an email.
Well, should I add the tweets that we had from the guesses?
Yeah, you can at this point. There were a couple people who said 20 hours.
Yeah, Rube said 2 months of owning it, 4 refunds max a week, 20 hours max gameplay is my guess, but he has the 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, 2 free trial games a month, 4-hour demos of all games, 20-hour refund policy. Then he followed it up with 2 shots of whiskey, 4 ciders, and 20-hour return period.
I was very happy about that one.
Yeah. Seth Johnson, 2-hour games for a total of $4 to spend 20 minutes on a monetized YouTube channel complaining about the quality of games and then refunding.
That one was a good chuckle too.
Chemist, not sure because you're a fucked up American date format, but it only allows you to refund games on, and I blanked out the date when I copied it over. So it was
like April the 2nd, 2020 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
and then I put in 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, 10 kilometers of running every single day until bald.
Which, in case you don't know, that's a One Punch Man reference. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of that really rambling discussion, which went for over an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, once again, No Man's Sky and its surrounding content manages to control the podcast. We've got enough time for one.
Oh, I think we'll be able to fit both of these in because I think the first one's not going to be too long.
Okay. Well, our next topic.
Hey, if we go long, then people are going to love us for having over a 3-hour podcast again.
That's true. We were like 3 hours and 20 minutes last week. So
and I didn't get any complaints.
Let's go talk about our last news topic for this week, which is
once again another clusterfuck.
Ark Survival launches a paid expansion while they're still listed as being in early access.
Wow.
Because they think they can.
Well, here's the sad thing, is that at least when this expansion came out, which I'm heading to the store page now to double check this was the top seller on Steam for quite a while. And it is number 2 right now, behind Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition, which has a 75% discount. So, obviously, we're going to be the minority voice here. And this is just sad.
Well, on their Steam store page, the most recent reviews are mostly negative. 9,251 negative
Ark Survival
reviews.
Evolved is just... they're down to 37% user review positive. And I've marked the game as not interested. Granted, wasn't terribly interested before, but... It is a disgusting practice.
Yep.
I don't think that early access games should have their content pardoned off like this, or cordoned off. Actual content. I could kind of understand cosmetic stuff, to help fund extra features in the game, almost like stretch goals and Kickstarter.
Right.
But I honestly think that any DLC in an early access game should be either soundtrack, art, or cosmetic only. Having actual content cut from the game, which people will argue this, and as a matter of fact, the developer argued this, and one of the last links, or the last link in this, has screenshots of him calling people cheap and saying that this is a $60 title that we are underselling, and you're entitled, essentially. Once again, there's that word again.
Yeah.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you fucking think it means.
Early access games should not have DLC expansion content, period.
Yeah.
Like, if your game is not finished, don't sell more of what's not finished. Don't add an act,
Yeah, this should be well, this is part of the development cycle.
Right.
People buy into the early access game, expecting to have all of the development time put towards that game.
Right.
And there's a reason why Ark Survival Evolved is down to 37%, which well, I should say their overall is 69% for across almost 94,000 reviews. In the last the last 30 days, I was looking for the number. 37% of nearly 10 or just over 9,000 views or reviews. Sorry, 37% have been positive. So people are pissed, but at the same time, people are buying this expansion. So, it's such a mixed message.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why they probably cut this content and are selling it is, well, did you read about the $40 million lawsuit for Ark?
No, I haven't seen anything about that. What happened to them? Why did they get sued?
Essentially, if what I recall was correctly, and I'm looking at the actual thing now, was that they hired somebody that had a non-compete clause.
Yeah.
And they got sued for it. Oh, train. This will give me time to look this up. All right. Well, part of the reason why they're probably selling this expansion is that they lost $40 billion. And I actually, while we were on the elevator, because I imagine elevator music will be playing.
I don't know. It depends on how I cut it, but I might just put it in now because you mentioned elevator music.
Yeah. They lost a lawsuit for $40 million because one of the developers breached his contract with Trendy and was working on Survival Evolved in secret. So that sounds like a non-compete to me. Which, once you get into the legalities of non-compete and how ethical they are, I'm not going to go into that just because we're already running long.
Right.
But yeah, they lost $40 million. So this is probably them taking what would have been an update and selling it to people. And that is just scummy as hell.
Yeah.
I don't see how people could be supporting this developer. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't see how. Outside of, people are being almost cult-like in their following of this game.
Yeah, Ark Survival is a weird one that has lasted. Typically, what you see is there's just kind of like this roving tribe of survival crafting game people. And they'll go from game to game, but Ark has lasted.
Yeah, they've been very nomadic. As a matter of fact, there was a zero punctuation talking about the nomadic nature of the survival genre, where they went from Rust. There was Stomping Lands, which is very similar, which I think has since gone defunct, or has been pulled off Steam completely. I believe it's been pulled off Steam completely, but I don't recall why. Time to go searching again.
What game did you say it was?
Stomping Land.
Stomping Land. I don't know if I've even ever
heard
of that.
It is very similar to Ark. It had dinosaurs and was a survival game. And yes, it's been pulled off Steam. It was an early access game.
Is it The Stomping Land?
The Stomping Land.
I'm on its subreddit right now.
Yeah, that's been pulled off of Steam, and it was popular for a while. As a matter of fact, I had a friend that was trying desperately to get me to play it, but I just couldn't be asked about it.
It's a dead subreddit. Its last post was a month ago.
Well, that's more alive than what the game is, because it's been completely pulled off Steam, and I don't think I had a non-Steam edition of the game, or if it did, it wasn't nearly as popular.
Yeah. Okie dokie.
But it's just the nomadic nature of this genre, where Ark has somehow survived, but they're cashing in their goodwill. They're pulling a double fine. They're trying to just squeeze as much money out of their customers as possible, and not giving a damn about the future.
Yeah. get hours and get out.
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is very, very short-sighted because I would like to think that gamers would remember, but then you see, people complaining about Call of Duty, and then, the next Call of Duty comes out and they'll just blindly buy it. So
Call of Duty numbers have been dropping for years, though.
Well, on PC, that's the thing. Do we have any stats about the console version?
Yes, they've been dropping for years. I believe the peak game for Call of Duty was Black Ops 2, and every game since then has noticed a decline in sales. I mean, it still is making tons of money, but they've been shaving off roughly 10 to 20% of their sales game after game for the last few games.
I wonder if we're going to have a year without a Call of Duty before too long.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if it gets down to whether they break even or lose money, absolutely we'll see a few years off of Call of Duty. Either that or the series will go through a huge revamp, but I mean, right now I don't think it's
it'll go to space or something?
They're doing that. I wonder if that's the case, if that's why they're going to space, trying to change the series up so much because they have been losing so many sales for years. That's interesting.
But that's probably a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
It just shocks me what gamers put up with in general at times.
Yeah.
And I would love to see the sales figures for this. I can't wait for Steam Spy to start reporting on just how many sales they've actually made with this. Because that's the thing, is that the Steam top sellers, it's by revenue, so it's not by numbers. So Borderlands 2 is selling essentially over twice of what Ark Scorched Earth, which that's a very appropriate name for that expansion pack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scorched Earth. And there's some people complaining that this is possible pay to win as well, just because you're able to take some of these monsters back to the main game. Granted, I have no idea about if that's true or not, because I don't play this game, and after this, there's no way in fuck I'm playing it. Even if I got it free, it'll just sit in my library.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try Ark Survival, but I've never bought it. I might not at this point. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and then we get into the whole thing where there, of course, there was a very vocal Discord channel about this.
Another one.
Yeah, another one.
Nice.
And that's where the screenshots from, well, now the second to last article comes in, where the developer for Ark Survival Evolved was calling players cheap.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, that's where it comes in, where they're talking about how we packed in so much content in a $20 game. You guys are cheap. You shouldn't be this cheap. It's cringeworthy. It makes me wonder what the fuck this guy was thinking. So eventually he apologizes, but here's the thing, is that it comes across as more being forced to apologize by his higher-ups than anything else.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel legitimate, because honestly, what his legitimate answers or his response feels like is where he's calling people cheap. Yeah.
I think that's actually the reason
Earth.
why Ark has lasted for so long. They put a lot of value into a game that originally, I think the original launch price for it was like $30, $30 or $35.
Yeah.
But they put, $60 worth of value in a $35 game, so it's held on and has had fairly healthy sales all this time. That's probably why it's held on.
Yeah, but then they start selling expansions and DLC for it while it's still in early access, and people are expecting. But maybe this is the expectation. If they wrapped up development of the main game, granted, the main game would have to go through a huge optimization patch, because it is hugely unoptimized, according to reports I've read. No game could run it fluidly at 60 FPS. No computer is able to do that unless you're running cutting-edge hardware. So they need to do an optimization patch. There's bugs that still need to be fixed. So it's one of those things that it just feels like they're, scorching the earth.
Yeah.
They're cashing in all the goodwill that they've had from putting out a lot of good content. And also, they market this game heavily. I think it was PAX just this week. They had a life-size T-Rex with a saddle for art.
That's pretty cool.
So they are heavily marketing this game. And it's just, they're scorching the earth. And yes, I'm using their title of their expansion pack against them just because it is ironic. And I do not expect their next game, if they make a next game, to sell nearly as well, just because of how they treated their gamers, their players, with this expansion. They've cashed in.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about this?
Nothing to add, no. I've said... I mostly agree with you. Maybe even entirely agree with you. And I've, pitched in where I've felt like I should or could. So with that in mind, or out of the way, however you would like to view it, let's move on to our community corner.
Yep. We
have, unless something just came in, it did not, we have one audio letter this week from Kyle's better half, Mel, whose real name is Melanie, but for some reason we call her Meliora, because according to Kyle, that's her nickname.
I call her Mel because I don't trust myself to be able to say that name.
She was introduced to me as Mel, so that's what I'm going with. So let's have Mel talk to us about being a girl gamer for a couple of minutes.
Hello, this is Meliora sending in her first audio letter. In today's letter, I'd like to talk about my experiences as a female gamer. My screen name sort of matches Kyle's name, but it also announces the fact that I am a female. But this usually isn't a problem when Kyle and I are playing together on a Gary's Mod server. Usually somebody will figure out that we're a gaming couple, and then their response is usually either, "Oh, it's so cute," or, "Ugh, not another one." But if I'm playing on a server by myself, I usually don't talk much on the mic, mostly because I sound like a 12-year-old, and also just because I don't want to interact with anybody who will, spam me with messages like, "show boobs," or "make me a sandwich," which, make your own sandwich. But other than Gary's Mod, I definitely consider myself to be a PC gamer. And, I like to play a wide variety of games, either, stress relief. I play Call of Duty with Kyle and some friends, just, blow off steam, run around, shoot people in the head is always fun. I also like to play games with some strategy, like Civilization 5 and whatnot. And I also like to play, Mass Effect and Fallout, with that have lots of background lore, and I like to run around and, figure out what the story is and deal with the plot. Alright, that should be enough for my audio letter this week. Have a good one.
And that was Mel. Thank you, Mel. You sounded a little nervous at first. Don't worry about it. We won't bite.
Yeah, don't worry. Well, except Jared. He nibbles a little.
Well, I would. You're spoken for, so I wouldn't nibble on you. Plus, I think my wife would murder me if I nibbled another woman. For some reason, she thinks it's okay for me to nibble on Rage and friends, but, women are out of the question, so you're safe there.
Well, how do you know this just isn't a voice changer?
Oh, well, I suppose I'll find out one day.
Oh, my.
I seriously intend to make a trip once I actually have some time. I would obviously plan in advance. I just wouldn't show up at your doorstep, but I seriously intend to make a trip up to see you at some point in the near future. Hopefully the near future.
Only problem is that there's jack all to do here.
That don't matter. We just hang around and drink, You can have lemonade or Kool-Aid, and I'll drink cider or something, and we can chat.
Good luck actually finding somewhere to buy alcohol here.
Well, I can bring it with me. But
bringing it across state lines, that's bootlegging.
Done it before. Done it plenty of times before.
So boobs are make you a sandwich. Well, Jared is a big enough boob as it is, and I was a heavy in my pro or competitive TF2 days, so I was the one making the sandwiches. I am heavy weapons guy.
I've always been really upset at that. Back when I used to play Xbox Live when I was in high school, some of the best friends that I made online were actually women. I used to play Gears of War all the time. One of the Gears of War. It's probably Gears of War 2 by this point, but Gears of War all the time with I'm the Cool Mom. I never knew her real name. That was her. Her Xbox Live gamer tag. And she was pretty cool. She was just an older lady who liked to play games, and her kids, had moved on. So she was cool. And then back to Chrome Hounds, I met some people playing Chrome Hounds, and one of them was a girl. It was the guy's girlfriend, or I don't think they were. It doesn't matter. They were in a relationship together, and her name was Ashley, and she was cool. I mean, girl gamers are gamers too. So
yeah, back in my WoW days, most of the friends I had was actually the women in the guild, which makes me sound terrible now that I think about it and say that out loud.
I mean, my mom plays WoW
but I do have a theory on some of the casual sexism. I think it's more just assholes latching on to the easiest thing to make fun of.
Yeah, online anonymity and all that.
Than actual real sexism. It's just saying the first thing that they could think of.
Right. It's that stereotypical stuff that people say that it's like, oh, that's not really racist. Everybody says that when we're, I guess in this case it would be sexist, but when it actually is. Regardless, you are among people who like you and respect you. So no need to be nervous. No need to worry about being a girl gamer.
Except Kyle. Jared, can we keep her?
I hope so. I hope she stays around. She's cool. By the way, Mel, I added you on Steam in case you. I don't know how often you log on.
I may have to hunt her down. Which, boy, that sounds really creepy as well.
But I added you on Steam, and if you've got a Twitter account, I would love to follow you on Twitter. So
yeah, well, Kyle made one due to Kerbal so maybe she can make one because of VGL.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So, welcome.
And, she does have quite the taste or wide variety of games.
Yeah. But welcome to the VGL family, Mel.
Yeah, your mother and I are very proud of you. Isn't that right, Jared?
Yes, we are, sweetheart.
And we're never going to hear from her again.
Well, I bought Call of Duty Black Ops so that I could play a game with them sometimes. So I hope that.
Well, I have Civ and all the content except for one of them or two of the map packs.
At this point, I'm just waiting.
So I could get trounced by them pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because I never stick around with not Call of Duty, Civ long enough to really get the nuances of it. I bounce around so many games. I mean, just right now, even though I only talked about 2, I'm actively playing about 5 different games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's whatever I'm playing for the Sunday Sampler, which I usually play for a total of like 3 or 4 hours. That's recording and my pre stuff. The 3 things for my Let's Play series. Right now, Papers, Please, because I have to get time with that. And I'm not able to really dive into it for too long, which we'll get into for next week.
Right.
And then anything that I'm playing casually.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Today I was playing Dirt. What?
So I've got Papers, Please on Steam.
Yeah.
I'm considering buying it on my iPad, and playing it there. What do you think? You think that would?
That's interesting. I would think it would work pretty good on iPad, actually.
It's not very expensive. It's only like $5 or $6, and I've got.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't have a tablet, so.
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking about doing it. I think it would be an interesting point of comparison. I don't know. Just want to see what you thought of it.
It's an interesting thought. Granted, you're going to have to hurry up and do it if you're going to do it.
Yeah. I'll probably do that.
You only have a week left.
Probably do that. I'll buy it tomorrow. Yep. Definitely going to do it. Talk myself into it. Gonna buy it on my iPad. See how it does.
I've done quite a few gamer couples over the years, actually. They usually work fairly well. There has been a couple problem ones. Typically, whenever it's leadership in a guild, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, one being an officer and one not being. Matter of fact, the one that really stands out to me was back once again in my raiding days. One was the actual raid leader. There was a structure where the guild leader handled the day-to-day operations while the raid leader handled all the strategy and stuff, because for WoW, that's actually quite the task. Especially back then when there was a lot more complex boss fights and having to handle the rosters in timetables of, let's say, 30 plus players, if you count just substitutes as well.
Yeah.
So he was handling that, and he made his girlfriend the lead healer, and she had no idea what the fuck she was doing.
Nice. I think you've told this story before.
Yeah.
At least to me, maybe on the podcast too.
Yeah, I won't go too much into it, but yeah, she messed up in some pretty major fights, would constantly be out of mana, and would actually yell at me for being full mana, not realizing, okay, I'm an enhancement shaman. One of the major things enhancement shaman does is they have small mana pools, but they regenerate mana like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I had 3 or 4 different methods of regenerating my mana to the point that I could regenerate it faster than I could ever use it. And that was the optimum build as well. So her yelling at me just shows how utterly clueless she was, because she was trying to talk about things that she had no clue about.
Right.
That was a fun time. He ended up leaving the guild in quite the huff, and actually caused a lot of damage to it just because he left right before a raid, and caused a lot of people to leave as well, just because, there was no real leadership outside of that. The guild leader was kind of hands off with everything.
I don't know if I've ever told you this or said this on the podcast, but WoW was what kept Katie and I together when we first started dating. Because we started dating right before the end of a semester. And, she lives in Colorado, I live in Tennessee, at the time. And so we couldn't see each other outside of Skype for like 3 months. So I convinced her to start playing WoW, and I bought her 3 months of subscription time. And we played WoW for 3 months, hardcore, over the summer together. Like, every day.
Aww.
We just sit on Skype and chat and play WoW. And it was great. And we continued to do so for a while afterwards, like even up until we got married. But, then we got jobs and a kid. And so she's not a gamer like I am. We're definitely not a gamer couple. So she only tends to play board games. She only tends to play video games whenever she has like nothing else to do. And with a kid, especially a 2.5-year-old, that really never happens.
Yeah, there's never not a time that there's nothing else to do.
So,
unless the kid has been in the vodka again.
Well, maybe.
So, shall we move on to tweets?
Yes, let us move on to tweets. I think we'll actually get some Franken episode content this week, which will be good.
I did some heavy editing on the tweets, or we already went through quite a few of them, just because Jared made an absolute mess of them with the giveaway stuff.
That's what I do.
So, question of the week was actually inspired by your uncle. No, he's not my uncle. He was joking around talking about me teasing you with the size of my library. So it got me wondering, how large is your library and how do you organize them? Kyle says he has around 150. Clicked out of my thing. There we go. He has around 250 games. Fun won't show how many, but I keep around 50 installed at any given time. Which, that's quite a few on a phone, actually.
Yep.
Groove, I have 169 games on Steam. Yeah, I know, 69. And some more on other platforms. But what is it about organization that you're talking about? They're all in one big library. Andrew Mason, about 150, and most of them are stored in IKEA bookshelves. No real order, just what fits. Only bought 9 games for my PS4, though. I do have some free ones given to me through the PSN subscription. As for my video games, there's 8 on my Steam library, so they don't need much organizing. And my old discs probably won't run on Windows anyway. And then Chemist, 72 total, including 20 hidden games I got from bundles. Unless you're looking for... he did an abbreviation. I don't recognize this. I just copied this verbatim and I didn't read this. Unless you're looking for new stuff, default to view recent in the grid mode. And that's the question of the week.
Do you use grid mode or list mode?
I do list mode. There is no feasible way for me to do grid mode.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I went through a while...
And I should give an updated total since I think we should both do an updated total since it's the question of the week.
Sure.
I'm at 1,313 games.
I have 443.
And I organized mine. Well, I have a massive chunk that's unorganized right now that I need to go through. I go by genre.
Yeah. Also have a chunk of probably 50 games right now that aren't organized, and I create my own categories for things that are pretty arbitrary.
I have probably a couple hundred that are unorganized that I need to go through. But the problem is that I get several games a week. Like just Monday, I got 9 review keys.
Yeah.
Granted, not all of them are recent games. Some of them are months old that I guess the publisher is just giving out the remaining keys that in their allotment. So that's why something like OddPlanet came up. That was a review key that I got recently, but that game has been out for months now. So I'm assuming that's what happens there is that they give out a few to the high value YouTubers and probably promptly get ignored. And then once they're at the end of giving out keys, they're just giving them out to everyone that above a certain criteria.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it for the question of the week?
Yep.
Okay. Rest of the tweets.
Then we have a couple tweets. A lot of them we already read. Kyle, holy zip! You may have a cheeky monkey in your podcast's back door. And then I kind of edited out all the stuff that you two went back and forth with. For the record, all the how hard to pronounce words are places in Michigan, also from Kyle. There's a few places around here that you need a particular accent to be able to pronounce correctly, or there's no way of knowing the correct pronunciation from locals. For example, there's a town in my state that it's Hurricane, but the actual way that people call it here is Hurricane, using the English pronunciation for who knows what reason.
I have one of those such places close to me. There's a little town by it. Now, if you read it the way it's spelled, it should be Decatur. But the way that it's pronounced by the locals is Decatur.
But yeah, that's all the tweets outside of all the mess that Jared made.
Yep, I made a big mess.
Yeah, more so than usual this week.
I've got a stupid
but I
crown on my
already
face
read
right
a
now.
bunch of them when we were talking about your refund proposal. So, yeah, on to weekly picks.
Yep, let's go on our weekly picks. I've got 2. How many did you come up with?
I eventually got 2.
Okay. What's your first one?
Well, first one is an absolute waste of space on Steam. Bad Rats, The Rat's Revenge. Yeah, I don't think we've talked about this one, and I think it's overdue. Don't you? This one turned into a meme of giving to people. It's one of those games that's probably the worst on Steam, but it has so many joke reviews on it that's actually very highly rated. It is a Incredible Machines Rube Goldberg-esque puzzle game that the physics on it just don't work properly. They are a crapshoot, to say the least. Total Biscuit actually did a video on this called "Why Do I Own This?" Well, before he decided that series was probably being a little too mean to game developers. And he was showing off that hitting the play button over and over again would have the puzzle do different things. Making it more just a game of chance than an actual puzzle game. So yeah, this is an absolute waste of time, and people buy this game for 50 cents and jokingly give it to all their friends just because they're assholes.
Does this have trading cards? Oh, it does have trading cards.
Yeah, it does have trading cards.
Maybe I'll buy it and sell the trading cards.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's so widely given out that the trading cards aren't worth the ones and zeros that they're printed on.
Yeah.
But look at the reviews. Works better than No Man's Sky. It's like Skyrim with anime.
Yeah, those are some song lyrics, and then there's a story that someone made that's really long. Something about Hitler. I think someone just copied the Wikipedia page for Hitler, actually, and posted this in here.
Yeah, it's...
That's brilliant. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I think we eventually just had to talk about this game because it is a meme that pops up, and it goes on sale fairly often for this price. So look at it this way. We never have to talk about this game again.
Yeah.
Until the sequel comes out, because they've made enough money that they probably will make a sequel. Am I right? I think they are making a sequel.
Nice.
But yeah, if you wish to waste 49 cents, there you go. It's normally 99 cents, a huge chunk of change. And it's 51% off.
Yay. Okay, well, my first game is Salvation Prophecy. I believe I talked about this game once a long time ago, but it was not as a recommendation. So it is on sale this week for, 90% off, $1.99. And what this game is a weird mashup of third-person shooting, space combat, and 4X strategy. So you start out as a lowly ground trooper, and you go down to planets and fight in the actual ground battles. You rank up, you get better equipment. Eventually, you unlock the ability to fly ships. So you get in your fighter, and you do missions, and defend a space station, defend the planet, destroy the attacking fleet. Eventually, you rank up, and you get to go fight and attack the enemy's planets and destroy their shit. And then eventually, if you get, or you work your way up, and then you become a general, and you control the armies. And you can actively go back and forth between whichever one you want to do. Like, as soon as you attain a rank, it's not like you're locked off from the other content. If you're like, man, I want to go fight in this specific battle, then you can. Like, you can decide to send your army to attack a place. Then you can use the fighters to attack the place. And then after that battle's over, you can go land on the ground and blow stuff up and kill enemies. So it's got a lot of kind of grindy RPG-ish elements to it.
It's not exactly a pretty looking game. It looks like, according to this, it was released in 2013 and doesn't look like it, just texture-wise.
Yeah, it's not a very good-looking game. And honestly, it's not like a super great game. It tries to... I think if it really focused on one element in the game...
Is this the Spore problem where it's a lot of little ideas tied together and none of them really stand out?
Kind of. It's not that bad, though. Like, I mean, there's three... there's the three components to the game. The ground combat and the space combat are actually pretty solid. If they had stuck to those two and maybe fleshed them out a bit more, the game would be a lot better. The strategy portion of the game is very lackluster. And even I think if they'd focused all of their time and effort into making the strategy portion good, it wouldn't be. So where the game really shines, the most, honestly, is the space combat. The ground combat is fine, but it's very samey. It's basically, a wall of units versus a wall of units. And the map changes, and occasionally there's like, oh, this fort that you've got to defend or take over. But for the most part, it's just kill everything better than the other team. But, if you want a few hours of kind of mindless action, space, sci-fi combat, then, you could do worse than this. And for $2, I think it's worth it for $2. You get 6-8 hours out of it for $2, I think, unless you're just really put off by maybe the graphics or something. It feels very much like Battlefront, the old Star Wars Battlefront, not the new
All right. Oh, you mean it actually has content?
one. Yeah, it does. It has content.
Oh, how about that?
Really, now that I say that, I think that's probably what they were trying to do. Kind of emulate the old Battlefront and add to it. Because, like I said, it's got some RPG elements. There are like officers that you can buy special equipment from your paycheck that you earn for winning battles and that sort of thing. But I mean, that's just not super well fleshed out, basically. So yeah, $2, worth it. $20, pass. So pretty much only get this game on sale. All right, your turn.
All right. My other game is actually a game that I've talked about recently, Chroma Gun. Yes, we're back to this one. It's on sale this week. Granted, not much on sale. It's only 10% off. But I didn't really have anything that was jumping out at me, so figured go with this. This is a sliding block, or sliding ball, I guess is the proper way to put it. A puzzle game that wants to be Portal, but it doesn't quite make it. Granted, there's a lot of games in this little subgenre of almost Portal-like that just never quite emulate what Portal really had. They take elements of it, but never have the full package. And this one, they have the announcer for probably about 15-20 minutes, and then he's gone. Granted, I haven't played a lot more of it since my initial video of it, so he could be back later in the game, and I just don't know about it. And they try to emulate the Portal gun, but with colors and grabbing balls. I could hear Jared snickering now. It's an interesting idea, but it just doesn't quite. It feels like it's a little underbaked. And just look at the Steam reviews for this. I didn't notice this last time. Look how many of the top reviews got this game for free.
Yeah.
I don't think this sold very well, and I could kind of understand why. It feels underbaked for what it is. If they spent a little bit more time on it, if they refined it a little bit more, and I don't think they should have sold this as a Portal-like game. I think they should have said outright that this is more of a sliding block puzzle game than a physics puzzle game, because that's really what you expect of a Portal-like game is physics-based of some degree.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did themselves a disservice in trying to be Portal, when really they shouldn't have. They should have just been their own game, or they shouldn't have marketed it as a Portal-like game.
Right.
But as I mentioned, it's only 10% off this week. It's normally $12.99. It's down to $11.69. Wait for Jared to snicker again.
Wink.
And if you go into it with the right mindset, it's not a bad game. The puzzles are somewhat interesting. Granted, there is a lot of trial and error with it because there's no way to undo what you've already done. So if you make the wrong move, you are most likely having to reset that puzzle or reset that chamber or whatever they're calling in this. I don't recall exactly what their proper term for it is. And that could be several minutes of gameplay, even if you know exactly what you're doing.
Right.
So it's a tenuous recommendation just because, partly just because I didn't want to have only bad rats here. And if you go into it with the right mindset, it's probably not that bad, but don't go into it expecting to be a physics puzzler when it definitely isn't. And it is nice that it has a proper colorblind mode, especially considering it is a color-based game. But that right there is a very nice consideration. I just wish they had enough consideration for the rest of the game.
Okay, well, my second game, or my other game, is called Fairspace Genesis. This game is 60% off at $3.59. And this is a bit of an odd one. So this is a very, very small, 1 to 2 man development team, and this game has been being worked on for several years at this point. It initially released in, it came out of early access, I should say, in October of last year, but it was in early access for a couple of years, maybe even 3 years. And it combines a lot of really different kind of space MMO elements with other games like Freelancer. I guess the best way to think of it is like if you smashed EVE Online's really in-depth economy and kind of player freedom with the more of the Freelancer aspects of mission story development, which I know that's not like huge, but that's really what I feel like it emulates. And then add in a more realistic Newtonian physics-based movement system. That's what you get with Fair Space. It is an MMO, although it's pretty dead. The game has been sold outside of Steam, but the Steam is where most of the community has come from, and it's pretty dead right now at this point.
Shall we poke it with a stick?
We can.
Or are we just going to compare it to Battleborn?
You could do that too. But, I mean, since it's like one or two guys' passion project, they've really reacted to that over the years and have added a lot more single-player focused content to help make up for the fact that the community basically died off. And, I mean, it's still receiving updates. The last update was in July.
Well, let's see. Current players is...
0.
Yeah.
It's got a peak of 2 and an all-time peak of 12. So, it's not a super popular game, but...
Really?
The graphics are bad. But as long as you're okay with that, like I said, it's got realistic Newtonian physics. So, your ship's not flying around in space like it's a fighter craft in an atmosphere. You've got weight and momentum, and, you can use
probably turned off a lot of people, actually.
Probably. I mean, you can use that to your advantage, or it can really get the best of you. There's tons and tons of freedom as to what you can do. There's factions that you can work with. You can eventually build your own ships and pilot large ships and create things in space, stations, defenses. You can create stuff on planets. So there's a lot you can do in this. I mean, it's just a huge mishmash of all kinds of space games that these guys were like, you know what? I like this element of this game and this element of this game, and let me throw them together. And it's been a long time getting it to work. But like I said, it's a dude's passion project. So he's like, I don't care if if I don't make a ton of money with this or any money at all. It's like, this is a hobby. I developed this game for fun and hope that people can come.
Easy there, Sonoma.
So it's good. It's got my space game seal of recommendation on it. It also doesn't pull its punches. Be very careful when you're starting the game as to what missions you take on if you're trying to learn how to play. The AI will fuck you up.
Okay, and you done with that?
Yeah. I'm done with that.
Okay. I didn't do the community corner a little bit as well, so if you wish to send stuff for the community corner or be able to check out our curator, you'd first of all email us at vglpodcast at gmail.com, or you'd tweet us at vglpodcast on Twitter, or just get a hold of us on the Steam group, steamcommunity.com/group/vglpodcast. And also there you have the curator, which, once I update it, we'll have our past recommendations for me back to episode 15, and I think Jared is at like episode 17 coming forward.
Yeah.
Unless he's done more since the last time we talked about this, which has been a few weeks.
Nope, I haven't.
I usually do mine in chunks, though, a few weeks at a time.
Yeah, that's how I've done mine so far, too.
Which we need to also talk about our game club. Talk about the game club poll here in just a moment, but
yes,
figure out how we're going to add the game club to the recommendations, do both, and just try to condense it down to like 140 characters.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, a quick thing for the poll, which for the game club, which we should probably add to the show notes.
I was gonna say, yeah, we should talk about that and add it to the show notes.
There we go. Okay, polling for the game club's next game will be starting up next week, and we're going to have a quick discussion about what we are going to have.
Right.
This may not be a hard and fast rule. We're going to have to see how it goes. But first of all, our middle game is going to be MechWarrior Online, partly because it got so many votes.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a real surprise, actually.
Yeah, I threw it back up on there immediately because I was like, it only lost by 1 vote.
And that was during the recording as well.
And so I think that it should get another chance just because it was so popular.
Yeah, it almost went to the coin of decision making.
Yeah. And, we might not do this every week. Like, if there's only one game that receives votes 1 week, or maybe if it's
we're gonna
a
have to play
completely
it
even
week by
spread.
week.
Yeah. I think we'll just take it, one at a time. Or, as it comes. Anyways.
Oh, my. And what's your choice?
My choice for this week is Warface, which is a free-to-play first-person shooter, very much in the style of Call of Duty. I'm okay with the feels. Rage requested that we not have another field trip.
Well, I just wanted a break from it because this is going to be 3 weeks that we have rather intense games.
Yeah, so this is a shooty bang bang week because we got.
Oh, trust me, there's plenty of games in the list that have field trips still.
Yeah, so we've got MechWarrior Online. I picked Warface, and Rage. What was your choice?
My choice is Warframe. We played this for quite a while in our group, but the thing is that we haven't played it since before the last major update. And they've revamped quite a bit of this game, so I thought it would be a good time to jump back into it.
Right.
And we could also really talk about the game just in general.
Yep.
Because there's actually, once you go into it, there's a fair amount of lore to it, and there's a lot of that you could really talk about with the gameplay and what they do with the shooting mechanics that they do right, at least the last time I played.
Yeah.
It has a very... it has a lot of feedback to its weapons, and it has a lot of variety to its weapons. And it doesn't feel like there was one particular right way to play the game, which is actually very difficult to do for a multiplayer shooter. Granted, this is more of a PvE aspect of the game. There is PvP, and they've added another mode that's essentially Rocket League.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things here, and I think it'd be an interesting one to at least go back to try.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if this has actually come up as a point of confusion or not, but if it is, no one said anything. But I feel like I need to point out that just because we pass over games, they just go back on the list. Yeah. So, for example, some of these games, especially like Warframe,
stacking is still on the list.
But the games we have here, like Warframe, Warface, and MechWarrior Online, are all free-to-play games, which tend to have a long build-up in order to get to the really, really good stuff. Like, we're really going to have to press hard to get into the details, that the nitty-gritty of these games, because they're going to be very much mechanic-based versus, to the moon story and all that jazz. So, if you see one of these games and you seem interested, it might be a good idea for you to start playing now instead of waiting. Just because they will eventually come around again. So that's just a thought. Anyways.
Yeah, and losers on the list do not go off. They just wait till their time comes.
Right. So now...
and maybe we shouldn't, thinking about it, we shouldn't mention who is supporting which game or has the pick, because I think it should be more ambiguous. Maybe you could edit that. Or that would be for next time, I guess, because it's one of us talking about it.
Yeah. So
it's just a thought that I just had, because I don't want it to be it's choosing between me and Jared. It's picking a game.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't have a problem with Warface, at least on the outset. I may have a problem later, but
I very briefly played it once. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I should see if it gets deeper, and then I never played it again. But yeah,
and I just thought of another game to put on the list.
So this list is going to go up this week when the podcast releases. Correct. That way, whenever we have Game Club next week.
This goes live when next week when we record the Game Club for Papers, Please.
But don't we need to have the game ready to announce for Game Club? That way, everybody has 2 weeks to play it.
Sorry.
So that'll go up when the podcast releases. I assume that's when you'll set it to tweet live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I should probably set it now so we have a week.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, you should put it live.
We should probably do this right after Game Club, actually.
Yeah, we could post it for 2 weeks. We can
Yeah, we're still filling out Game Club and getting the feel for it.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and start setting up that poll as soon as I save the podcast. Oh, we are very unorganized on this. But then again, this is the fourth one, and everyone has been... we found a new issue every single time.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. Every time we have Game Club, let's just have the next list ready. So we'll have to prepare another list for next week that people can start voting on, and that'll be a little weird, but once we get past that transition point, we'll have the new list every week when we do Game Club.
Okay.
That way people have 2 weeks to vote instead of just 1
All right,
week.
that sounds good.
Okay.
And we're going to have to remember to actually use the Steam group as well.
Yeah. I'll do that. I can be in charge of the Steam group.
All right. I think that's it for that. So that brings us to the outro.
That is correct, and this is the one part of the podcast where I always go first. So for me this week, I'm definitely working on that Sword of the Stars tutorial. My hope is that it'll be ready in at least the first 3 episodes that aren't like super specific. I guess 4 if you count the series intro. Will be ready in 2 weeks to go live. That's my hope. That's not a promise. That's a hope. And then after that, the race-specific episodes and then the advanced tactics episodes. I'd like to have 1 a week, but no promises on that because there's a lot of playtime invested in getting that stuff ready. But those are going to be coming soon. Definitely by the end of the month. If it takes me 4 weeks to get the basic videos done, something either really bad has happened or I have just gotten so caught up in the craziness of life that my channel is going to take another dive in content production. Otherwise, there are Terraria videos going up to be caught up. There are War Thunder videos going up to be channel filler. And there are weekly review segments posted every Sunday. This past Sunday was...
Yeah, taking my idea.
Yeah. This past Sunday was...
Did you use the alliteration as well?
No, I did not use any alliteration. It's just my weekly reviews. Anyways, though, this past Sundays that went live, I believe was... Well, I don't have to believe. I'm just going to go look. Because I scheduled these things like weeks ago. It was Kung Fu Strike. So, that is one of my...
Interesting game.
That is one of my classic reviews. The one that was out last week, actually, was Retro City Rampage. That was the very first official game review that I ever did. Retro City Rampage. There's definitely a different tone in that compared to my later work. But, you know, you go and you improve.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, at least in theory.
Yeah.
Or you just find new ways to fuck up, like the Game Club.
Yeah. The one scheduled for this coming week is, well, you'll see. I'm not going to spoil it. You'll see. And then I will say that it's a classic one. I needed just extra time to script and record reviews. So starting after this coming one is more recent games that I've done reviews for myself here recently. So that's what's on my channel and what's coming up. You can find all of that content by going to YouTube and searching for Gaming Psychologist. You'll find me there. You can follow me on Twitter at JMA4707. You can follow me on Twitch where I stream games twice a week. Sometimes, very rarely more, at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And if you want to be my friend on Steam, I'm accepting all random friend requests because I really hope that everyone that friends me is a listener to the podcast. And you can do so. My Steam username is jarthur4707.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're from, passcode for this week is Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude.
Does anyone know how to spell that?
I imagine German listeners would.
Do we have any... Is Groove German?
I don't think he is. But anybody that can speak German should be able to spell it.
Schadenfreude. Here's how you spell it. I'm going to go quick. Schadenfreude. There you go. You can rewind it, slow it down as you need to be able to spell it.
You know it's good whenever I make you spell it.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Rach?
Well, channel is still continuing pretty much as normal. In the mature phases of all my series now. Rimworld is still my most popular, well, getting the most feedback, I should say. And shit is going down in that series. If you don't know, the columnists for that series are all named after friends, listeners, people that I watch. And this week, well, the day this podcast goes live, Groove is actually making art, making fun of Aki, who has been having some mental break issues. He made 2 sculptures of Aki crying and trying to disrobe. What?
Nice.
And to try to cheer up Aki, I actually put one of them in his room.
How lovely of you.
Well, it's modern art. And, of course, Groove is my resident artist. Not that he's any good at it. He just makes fun of Aki. And he makes rude art. He's proud that he doesn't do the labor, and he researches. And if you wish to be part of the madness there, you can send me a tweet or just leave a message on one of the YouTube videos for it. And I'll add you to my name list. Recorded up to episode 11 or 12 of the series now. I'm a couple weeks ahead on it, so anyone that gets added to the list will have to wait a little bit of time to see themselves. But here's the thing, is that once you're on the list, you stay on the list. So any new colonies, which there will be eventually, especially considering some of the stuff that is upcoming in the coming weeks. I have some fun things going on there. Any new colonies will have the same name list. They'll just be re-randomized. And I think the only constant name is going to be Jared.
Woo!
And I may make him the worst character possible just in the future.
That's okay.
Because right now he's a 15-year-old lesbian.
Yeah, I am.
Who's forgetful. And he was supposed to be my top miner, but actually Kyle has overtaken him just because Jared has been so busy cooking and trying to keep the colonists alive.
Kyle.
Cooking and growing.
Kyle, give me my job back. You learn how to cook your own damn food.
And Kyle responds, make me a sandwich.
I'm going to stick Mel on you. That's sexist.
But don't worry, Jared. Maybe someday we'll find another gay girl so you can have someone to talk to.
Yay!
Because that's the thing, there's relationships in the game. Kyle is actually Jared's father in that game. What, did you forget that?
No, I didn't forget. I still just think it's funny.
That's been the only relationship I've hit so far. And I've only seen one other gay guy, and he was kind of dead.
Kind of dead.
Well, he was a raider, and, bad things happened.
Okay.
But to be fair, he had it coming. Wink.
Wink.
But outside of Rimworld, there's Victor Vron, which I think I'm entering the last act of the series. There's been a hell of a lot of filler in that game, though. Just blatant filler, and it's kind of taken my opinion of the game and taken it down a couple notches just because I could understand having filler in a game, but having basically saying, okay, we need you to go take care of these few bosses before you go to the ending area for reasons. It's very blatant that they're just using it to add time to the game.
Right. Okay.
Still, it's a very well done ARPG, and it's very simplified. Not too simplified that it feels very dumbed down, but there's no armor in the game. There's more set outfits, which so far I've found one. So either they're very rare or I'm just not high enough level to see them. And there's a crafting system that I've never used. Then, of course, Terraria, which I do with Jared. We're recorded a couple weeks in advance because we're prepping the Badger Trap again.
God, that was a shitty recording session.
We got absolutely no progress done in that.
Oh, and I mean, it wasn't our fault. It wasn't either of our faults.
I'm blaming you.
We just got
what are you
shitty
talking about?
RNG.
I'm blaming you. I don't know what you did when you made that world. Should we spoil what happened since there's no progression in that whatsoever? And it's just us running around like crazy?
We can. Why not?
We had, I triggered a pirate invasion in the last video that went out, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then immediately there's another pirate invasion. Then there's raining slime, which we took care of in just a couple minutes.
Yeah,
then we had another pirate invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of that, we also had another boss somewhere.
We had two boss encounters.
Yeah, we had a boss encounter during the Pirate's Revenge.
We had the robot skeletons, or we had the robot skeleton come, and then later we had the two giant eyeballs come.
Yeah.
Whatever their names are.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
We had a small break in between, during which I built a sky castle, and then we were invaded again.
I would call that, a skyscraper.
A sky tower.
Yeah, it's just, we made no progress, but I've been looking into trying to improve our progress. Outside of, just sitting there and fishing, which actually has been the most progression we've made.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Fishing has given us more rare ore than mining has. It's been very sad.
Well, I think part of it is we need to break even more altars. But granted, we were interrupted in the middle of that by, I think that was one of the pirate invasions.
Yeah, I think that was our second pirate invasion. And we were like, well, crap, we got to go back and deal with this crap.
Yeah, try to save what NPCs we could, and that wasn't many.
Yeah.
Oh, what a clusterfuck that was. And then, of course, there's the Sunday sampler, which right now, even I don't know what I'm recording for Sunday. I have a couple of good ideas, but we'll see how they pan out, because you never really know until you start playing the game, just how they turn out.
Yeah.
This last weekend, I had one that had a low poly look that every character in it looked like they had a popsicle shoved up their ass. It just had these wide eyes. I should upload that screenshot and show it to you, because there's times that the low poly look just doesn't work, and this was one of those times.
Right.
And if you want to catch all that, that is on Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Or if you wish to just hear my ramblings on Twitter, which I'm being a little bit better about, you can catch me over at Gaming with CR. Sorry, I'm uploading my image. Because you need to see this, Jared.
Okay. Are you going to drop it in the Skype chat?
Yeah.
What do we got?
It's not a very flattering model, is it?
Oh. That's really creepy. That reminds me of the Scream. You know, the painting? The guy in it? Like, that face reminds me of the Scream.
You want to know what's even better?
The nightmares I'm going to have because of this picture?
Well, first of all, you're welcome. I may have to tweet this out now. But second of all, they don't have the animation for her quite right. And she, it's one of those that will always look at you. You know, she'll look over her shoulder if you're behind her.
Yeah.
So if you're at the perfect angle, her head starts shaking back and forth really quickly, just stuttering, because it's at the edge of the arc, or just close enough that the next step puts it over, so it jumps back.
Yeah.
So it looks like she's shaking her head, like a couple millimeters, just at like 1,000 times a second. I should have recorded that, but I'm not sure if my recording would have caught that. But you're welcome for the nightmare.
Yep, thanks for that.
But I think that's all. I already said my Twitter, so let me go back to the proper page. And of course, there's always the Internet Archive that we also have to support, who unknowingly supports us.
Absolutely.
And puts up with our bullshit. And you could reach us once again, even though I said it just recently, bglpodcast@gmail.com with your alerts, voicemails, and topics, or tweet us at bglpodcast. And if you wish to support us instead of Internet Archive, well, first of all, you should support Internet Archive because they're awesome. Agreed?
Agreed.
You can do so at patreon.com/VGLpodcast. And I think the next step of this is no longer relevant, right?
What was the next step?
It was your friends.
Yeah, unless we actually do some content with him.
Okay.
With him, I think we're good there.
And our website, if you're watching this on YouTube or catching this in the RSS feed and need to catch the full show notes, or I should say on iTunes, you could do so over at videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com, where our show notes are. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we are on iTunes, Google Play, and whatever random podcast service Jared finds.
Yeah.
Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incomputech.com. And
as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.